Okay, we should be live. This is a Zizaran featuring RaizQT, who is our current guest. Should everything should be up and working. So thank you, Raiz, for coming on the show. If you have any questions, tag it in at PCChild and at RaizQT, and we'll be sure to ask him and see what spooky stuff he'll answer with. So, Raiz,
Right.
while we're waiting for the questions to come in, and make sure you tag them, guys, so I can see them easier. What have you been doing this league, and what are you up to currently?
Uh, I've been dying to game crashes, and then after that, I did the solo self-found thing, and I'm having a lot of fun. Currently playing Arc Totems. People don't believe in my build, but I, I, I will show you all. It will work one day.
So you have faith in your build.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it has potential, but it needs a lot of work.
So
Worst case
how?
scenario, I'll just go crit. That fixes everything, right?
Yeah,
Easy.
that's what I'm doing at the moment. It basically fixed all my problems. I found Malagars, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going crit now.
Yeah.
So what? How many times have you done the SSF now? Because you've done multiple characters, right?
Yeah. Well, I've done one character, but my map RNG wasn't exactly what I wanted. And I also kind of got tilted because I got a six link, and I know this is going to be ridiculous, but I got a six link. But since it's a solo self-found challenge, I'm like, I rolled a character that won't benefit in any way from a six link, so I used Innervate. And that kind of tilted me. And then I got kind of
Yeah.
unlucky with maps, so I just decided to re-roll. And yeah, I did. The next character was the Arc Totems character. And it was kind of fun, but I felt like I could have optimized it a lot more. So now I re-rolled again, and I'm trying to get level 80 in 8 hours. I think I'm like 3 hours in. I don't quite remember the level, but it's going on pace. I think it's going pretty all right.
Do you feel like the level 100 cap is a little too high for a solo self-found race, or how do you feel about that?
This whole thing happened because both me and Havoc wanted to get level 100,
Mhm.
a solo self-found, and then it just became like a big challenge race thing, and we didn't think so many people are going to join, but with the ladder running and everything, so many freaking people participating that
That's crazy.
yeah, it's a little bit different than what we expected. So I definitely think the level 100 thing is a little bit too high. However, this entire thing we can treat as like a stress test, and essentially in the
Yeah.
future we can run like lower level stuff, or just run our own races.
Yeah.
Honestly, with
No,
so many people
definitely.
participating, it's like our own league.
Yeah,
It's
because
pretty
it's
freaking
over
fun.
over 1,000 different characters now made, right?
Yeah, well, it's way over that. Like accounts joined the challenge, it's like way over 1,000.
Wow.
And then also, there's obviously people who are playing who haven't registered their accounts and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, it's pretty,
No,
it's
it's
pretty
definitely super
overwhelming.
successful. I'm really enjoying the league as well, and like I've never been so like. There's so many things that really excites you in the solo self, and like just finding an elk, Zana, stuff like that.
Yeah, Zana, yeah,
Yeah, you should have seen it. I found Zana after 20 hours. It was
yeah.
All right, so we're gonna open up with a question from Sergeant Whiskey Jack. Have you played any of the Witcher games? What are your thoughts on them? If no, you should be ashamed of yourself.
I actually haven't played any of the Witcher games. I did. I have very good opinions about them because some of the people that did the stunt work for that, I know personally because I used to do some of that stuff too with them,
Mhm.
and I have a lot of respect for the entire project. However, I've never played the games because I don't know. I just don't play a lot of different games than PoE. But they're on my list. I will eventually play them. I think it's a cool concept. Being Polish and all, I have to support my country by playing the Witcher games, I
Yeah, no, it's
guess.
definitely a very interesting game. I've actually played quite a lot of them myself as well, but didn't really get
Yeah,
enough time with the last one because of Path Leagues mostly.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, how do you feel about memes by Cobra? Do you like memes?
I like memes when done well.
When
The
done
whole Vape
well.
Nation thing.
You don't like
Oh,
the Vape Nation?
I don't like it. It's not a good meme. I mean, I liked it for like a day, and then Zeno kind of ruined it on the podcast. It was like a dad joke, and then But in general, a good meme is not bad. Yeah, memes are good for sure.
Right, next question is I have a question. Why isn't Rice in the chat? That's okay, I'll ask. You can just tag me, guys. It's fine.
I am in the
You are
chat.
in the chat? I trust you, I
Yeah,
trust you. Right, here's
yeah.
a good question by Telkandori. Do you think GGG should do multiple 24-hour race events per race season? And do you think the difficulty should be more like the 24-hour Blamped or more like the 24-hour Arctic race?
Oh wow. That's a really tough one. Should they do multiple? Okay, there's two sides to this. For me, personally, it would be much cooler if they would do multiple of these races, and I would have a lot more fun. However, I really do agree with their idea of if you do something too much, people get bored with it and they don't want to participate.
Hmm.
So I think for something like that, racing would have to get a little bit more popular. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. As for the actual format of it, I mean, if they're gonna run multiple, they can run whatever they want, and they have to experiment with it. I honestly wouldn't be able to tell you because, you know, I disagree with a lot of the decisions about racing. I disagree with GGG on it. So, but they've got the actual numbers, they know what they're doing, so I'll just leave it up to them.
And while
I
we're on,
personally would prefer something uh, not like a blamp because I feel like it's just like not enough people are going to be interested. It's going to be like really hype in the first 5 minutes and then it's going to die off immediately. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, how do you feel about the 24-hour races, and what would be your favorite, like Arctic or the Blamp?
I mean, either way, it's good. It's just a blamp is not a good format. I think a regular race would be better. A blamp would be like maybe 1 in 5 of those races or something. It would be interesting. They would really have to space them out well. But yeah, I prefer regular races, especially 24 hours because it really shows skill in my opinion because progression is not very random. Skill typically prevails unless somebody gets some insane drops, which really never happens to top racers anyway, unless it's something ridiculous. But
Mhm.
yeah, it just doesn't happen. And then the first 24 hours is basically like easy maps. Sure, somebody can get really lucky with maps and get really good maps or get like untainted, but I feel like it's gonna even out anyway. So yeah,
RNG evens itself out in the end.
yeah, within 24 hours, probably. I mean, if somebody even gets really good maps, uh, probably they won't be able to run them too efficiently since their character will be quite weak
Hmm.
and it will be risky in a hardcore scenario. So
Yeah, I've been feeling that a bit in the SSF myself at the
yeah,
moment.
me too.
I got really lucky with my map pool. I had like level 67. I had 4 tier 7s. Like,
Yeah.
right. Next question is by Sunjin. What is the worst thing that is meta and the best thing that is not meta?
What is the worst thing that is meta? Uh, like worst as in the weakest that is meta, or
Yeah. What would you say is the worst that is like super popular at the moment?
leveling with Spark. People are obsessed with Spark.
Hmm.
Like everyone thinks that Spark is the solution to everything for leveling, where in all reality, aside from a character that's specifically built for Pierce and stuff like that, it's really crappy to level with compared to other things.
Yeah, definitely not the strongest leveler.
And the second part was what? What is the
What is the best thing that is not meta? So what's something that's sort of like underrated or unpopular but it's really strong?
oh wow. Underrated, unpopular, but is really strong. I honestly have no idea. It boils down to like nodes on the skill tree and stuff like that, but an ability, you know what? I'm gonna say arc totems, because yeah, I'm gonna make it
You really
work.
have faith in that build, don't you?
It's gonna work one day. Maybe. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I'd say arc.
I have high hopes for your build. Why is your beard so sexy? By Vanslam8. So he's a massive fan of your beard.
It's really not. Okay. I moved out. I'm no longer in a relationship. I have to do these things to feel better about myself. It's like a midlife crisis, even though I'm 25. But yeah, don't be fooled.
Well, depending on how much Red Bull you drink, 25 midlife. I mean, if I get 50, I'm pretty happy.
Okay. High aspirations, all right.
Right, next question is by Lifting Nerd Bro. If you could live in any place in the world, where would that be and why?
I would live exactly where I live, I think. Well, in terms of the country, because due to the fact that I live in Poland, it makes it a lot easier for me to live off of streaming,
Mhm.
and it enables me traveling pretty much anywhere. It's like a loose schedule. It's basically all tied into what I do for work, and thanks to living in Poland and being able to afford all the things through streaming, I honestly can't think of anything better. Like if I would live in Norway or something, there is no
Yeah,
freaking way I would be able to sustain myself with the amount of money that I make off of streaming. But in
yeah.
Poland, it's good enough.
Yeah, Norway would be ripped for streaming.
Oh yeah,
Like, oh, you want food? That'll be a kidney.
yeah, pretty much. So Poland.
Oh, no, I like your answer. I actually wouldn't mind moving somewhere cheaper myself.
Yeah,
Um, Next question is by Graham Tura. Why do you think Blade Vortex has become this popular this league?
I honestly have no idea. I haven't played Blade Vortex myself. I have like no interest in the skill. From what I've seen, other people playing it, so it's really laggy. It's really not that strong. It's like a Righteous Fire 2.0 type of deal. I, I honestly have no idea why it's so popular. Maybe it's just really fun to play, but I haven't played it myself, so I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mostly dabbled in it myself as well just for leveling, and then whenever it's late game, I'm like, just feels like a worse version of Bladeful.
Yeah.
Next one is by Rshlebiffin. How often does Ruiz wear pants when he's at home, and is he actually wearing pants during this AMA?
To my surprise, and everyone else's, yeah, I am actually wearing pants. How often? Uh, Never, almost,
Never.
except now. I don't know. It's like a weird thing. I run around on stream pantsless, no problem. When there's somebody like coming to the door with a delivery or something, I gotta get my KFC. I immediately put on pants. But then after they leave, I take off the pants. So
There's no need, right? People can only see the
yeah,
top half.
well, yeah. Usually,
Oh no.
we've had accidents. Yeah, things have happened.
You have a special
I'm a little bit more
subcam that shows
cautious
the
now.
bottom half.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Let's see.
Come on.
Oh, right. Okay. So now I don't know if you know, but there's been a lot of debate lately between RNG rituals. A lot of people use Kaduku. A lot of people use the climb. Do you have a like RNG ritual that you like?
You know what? Never lucky.
Just
Nothing ever works for me. I've tried everything. Nothing ever works, so I have no ritual. I used to stand in Solaris and like try and threaten the items into linking and stuff. So I would stand at the edge and just scream at the items and then like threat them that I'm gonna throw them down the pit, and that's actually happened a couple times. I actually would delete items or leave them in there and all
That's
that after
amazing.
they haven't linked. So yeah, but that doesn't work. I
It
don't know
doesn't
why.
work either.
It actually doesn't work. I had high hopes for that method, but I stopped using that a while ago because it just didn't work. And as for everything else, I mean, wow, the Cooters video where she links the freaking something where she's like smoke mining and running behind a smoking ghost, and she somehow links it mid fight, like blows my mind. But that apparently works. It worked really freaking well.
Babe Nation.
Vape Nation. Bleh.
Let's see. Do your parents, okay, this is another one by Whiskey Jack. Do your parents fully understand what it is you're actually doing, and how do you explain it to them?
Oh yeah, my parents know exactly what I'm doing. How so? Yeah, there's no. Well, every now and then I have to explain something to my dad since he watches my videos and my dad's a real smart ass. So he's the type that doesn't know like anything about like a certain thing, but he's always going to try and give you advice, which is typically appreciated. Two heads is better than one, and especially if somebody who's not necessarily too familiar with the field. Uh, they can always have like an outside
Yeah.
perspective. So that's pretty useful. But yeah, I don't really have to explain anything to them. They know exactly what I do. I've been living off of video games pretty much my entire life. So yeah, they don't really have a problem or anything else.
I'm imagining your dad like watching one of your rip videos now and being like, son, you shouldn't have run in there.
Yeah, he actually doesn't play PoE. Like he got super freaked out. He like came in when I sixling the thing. He got super freaked out and like he's like, oh, all these people spamming in your chat and stuff. I'm like, yeah, that went really well. And he's like, what exactly did you do though? Because he doesn't play
Yeah.
PoE. So I have to explain things like that to him. But like on the specifics of streaming, nah, he knows all about that stuff.
And like, do your parents speak fluent English? Because like, mine speak pretty good English. My mother wouldn't be as fluent. But like, yeah, is that like,
Yeah, because they also work a job that's they have to like interact with people outside of the country. My mom speaks pretty well. My mom doesn't speak much English.
hmm
She mostly types, but she knows English pretty well. She definitely understands things, no problem. And then my dad, Yeah, he speaks English too. Not too well, but definitely good enough to communicate with people.
Cool. Um, so there's another question about lifting. Do you prefer the first to level 100 or the fastest to level 100? So the last one would be Sash Blade. What do you prefer?
Oh, definitely fastest. I'm not really interested in first. I'm only interested in fastest for me personally.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's the format that we chose for this race, but obviously in the future we'll be running different events. I honestly didn't think that so many people are going to participate, like I've said before. So in the future, there's definitely going to be events where it's going to be the first. That's what I'm going to care about, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Next question is actually really interesting. I think it's going to be a good question to ask you. How about a race that overlaps? So a 1 hour race starts, and 15 minutes later, another like a 30-minute race starts. That way, the same top racers can win every time. How do you feel about
Well,
that?
I mean, doesn't GGG already do that sometimes though?
Mostly with the
I
really long ones, though.
I really, well, not really. Every now and then there's like an event where they mess up on the scheduling. So they just, one event ends and then immediately another one starts at the
Hmm.
exact same time that the other one ends, or like they sometimes overlap. I'm not a, I do like the concept, but I feel like maybe it would be a better format if it was a softcore race.
Hmm.
Because then, people are just gonna go full YOLO in the first race, and even if they die, they got the next one to do,
Yeah.
like the better players, right? So yeah, maybe if it was a softcore race, I would read it like that. I don't know. Personally, I'm greedy, so I just wanna play it all, in terms of races. So. I wouldn't like that, but I think it would be a cool concept, and maybe it would do a lot of good for the game. I still feel like there's a lot of room for like the average Joe racer to improve, and really doesn't take that much effort to get into the top tens and even top fives of your class, especially with less played classes like Marauders and Scions and all that stuff. So yeah. I think people can win more than they think if they just put in a little bit of effort into it. A little bit more effort,
Do you
guys.
think more people should start participating in racing?
Oh yeah. I think everyone I think racing is the future of Path of Exile, really.
Hmm.
I feel like it's the future of every RPG that has the potential to develop such a, complex game. Um, so definitely more people should get into it. I just hope that one day GGG will recognize this too, and maybe they'll start putting in a little bit more effort into actually getting it out to the masses. Because for now, it's not enough.
And what do you
But yeah,
prefer? Do you prefer shorter races, or do you prefer like really? How do you feel about 1 week races in comparison to the short races?
I prefer 1 weeks, I think. I mean, the
Hmm.
short races are really, really fun, but I tend to get frustrated with RNG every now and then, if it's like a lot of short races.
Yeah.
But then if it's like a really long race, um, it's got the no life aspect to it, especially like a 1 week. I feel would be cool because basically you can definitely get to 100 within 1 week right now, right? So it would be like a super hardcore race. And even though each season I'm playing less and less because I just can't, I just can't play for like 22 hours
Hmm.
every day for like a week like I used to. I used to do like 70-hour streams and stuff, and it was no problem. Nowadays, I can't really. I just get too tired. It messes up my entire week. I can't stream. It's a little bit too much. But something like this that's really really hardcore every half a year or something, I would really like.
That's good. I'm definitely hoping they do like a 1 week or a 1 month after this thing.
Please. I'm
Yeah.
I'm hoping for it so much. I mean, the 1 months have been fun, but the race that I enjoyed the most out of any race was the 2 week race way back. And even though the pacing of the game is very different now, obviously the maps are very different and everything, the power creep. But 2 week races, 1 week races are really fun. And there's really also the cool thing about a 1 week race is that there's no room for a comeback, really, which I feel is the reason why GG doesn't do it, because people, if somebody dies at like level 50, they they're basically out of the race unless they go completely
Yeah.
crazy and like yeah, all that stuff. But more people play on softcore anyway, right?
Hmm.
So they should still maybe look into that in the future. And maybe it's gonna happen in this racing season. I'm hoping for it for sure. It's a
Yeah,
lot of
it
fun.
could be a lot of fun. Next question is by SciTV. Rise, what's your opinion on the whole metagame right now, where you almost always need a build that can do any map mode?
Almost any build, I honestly, I don't really have a problem with it. Like I was a big hater when it comes to the whole power creep stuff and like how strong builds are in general, but the game is what it is right now, and I don't think anything's gonna change. So yeah, I really don't have much of an opinion aside from the game being fun still,
Cool.
even though I thought it's not gonna be.
You thought it's not gonna be, but you're happily surprised.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Ascendancy definitely made the game a lot more interesting,
Mhm.
and we just have to accept that the game is the way it is right now, and yeah, continue to play it. You know, the complexity is still there, even more than ever before, with the builds and all that. Every build, every skill has like multiple viable choices. It's pretty great.
Cool, yeah, no, I agree. I was pretty pleasantly surprised as well. When I first heard Piranhas, I was like, this sounds easy. But,
Yeah.
the Piranhas mobs were refreshingly hard, especially in the start.
Yeah, and I mean, I think also because he said that that's the meta where, uh, like every build can do every map, but I feel like there's more viable high level builds now because of the damage output, and so many builds just lowering their damage doesn't really do anything to
Mhm.
them anymore, you know? Everyone has enough damage. Like the game revolves around moving faster and all that kind of stuff, and you can't really dodge mods like Frozen Ground. You can
Yeah.
kind of dodge, but not really. But you can't really avoid the temporal chains and all that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
So there's a lot more top builds that just have enough damage. So I don't feel like uh, the map thing is an issue.
Mhm. Next question is by Geritol. If you were to buff evasion, how would you do it?
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Evasion is probably the best form of defense right now in the game, maybe aside from like super defensive characters with block and all that. It's the most accessible defense. It's probably, like I said, maybe the strongest form of defense. I really wouldn't touch it. The right side of the skill tree got a lot of hate, but I feel like with the life nodes and all that, but I feel like the community's finally starting to learn that the right side of the skill tree really is the way to go
Mhm.
in terms of builds. So, and you don't even need to get crit now, even if you're on the right side. Most builds don't really play crit, they like focus on frenzy charges and stuff. So, yeah, I honestly didn't even think about it because there's no reason to.
Yeah, especially as long as you have a multi-layered defense. Evasion is super strong. Next question is by True Enough. Who's the top three PoE players in your opinion? Overall, not just people running for 100 or like on the ladder.
Overall,
Yeah, top three PoE players.
I mean, if you include everything, the way they trade, the way they play
Yep,
like
everything.
short races, like level 100, everything, I would say Crame is by far the best player right now. Not even a comparison. I'd say Crame. Even though Havoc should still work on his early game, in my opinion, he's probably in there somewhere, either second or third.
Hmm.
And then in terms of just smartness and everything, I'd say Goratha is also up there, even though he doesn't get a whole lot of publicity.
Yeah, he
But
won
yeah,
a crazy amount of Altart Demis.
Goratha is legitimately insane. But yeah, in terms of like overall everything, every build, everything you can do, I think nobody even comes close to how good Crane is.
Cool. That's really good. Let's see. Oh, next question is by Fred Pui. How do you see yourself in 20 years from now? Not even 5 years. That's 20. Wow.
20 years?
That's very long.
Well, let's just say that Ziz asked me about doing this AMA like 3 days ago, and I wasn't able to give him an answer whether or not I'm going to be able to do it. So that gives you a perspective of where I see myself in 20 years. I honestly have no idea. No freaking clue. Probably still streaming. I really don't see a reason why I would stop aside from, one day not having pants on and maybe,
I was just about to
you
say
know,
that.
but that's happened before and I'm still streaming. So, yeah, I honestly don't know what would ever stop me from that. But aside from that, yeah, maybe getting back in shape a little bit more. I don't know.
That'll probably help your streaming career too. Maybe on a different website. Um,
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's a good opportunity, yeah. Thanks.
no
I
problem.
see you've been really thinking about
Oh
this.
yeah,
All
yeah, yeah.
right.
I would say like I have a backup career.
How to expand. Yeah, okay.
So the next question is by BravoScript Sundre. Do you feel GDD should make the game harder now with all this power creep?
Depends what you mean by harder. In my opinion, PoE probably is the hardest it's ever been. Well, I mean, I know this is an unpopular opinion if you just think about the speed of what people do, but honestly, due to the fact that the balance revolves around one shots and logouts and all that type of stuff, I feel like the game is harder than it ever was before in a racing scenario. So if you want to compete with somebody else, the fact that you have to go so fast and you have to make so many
Mm.
decisions so fast makes it a lot harder than what it was before in a competitive scenario. But for like the average Joe who doesn't care about competing or anything like that, I mean, you should start, and then you'll really understand how hard the game is. When you're going against another human being, the competition, the difficulty is endless. So if you have the opportunity to ever compete in a PoE league, I highly recommend you do it. And if you're not first or in the top five, yeah, the game is not easy enough, right? So
Do you feel
yeah,
like Brandis is rippy enough as it is right now?
I mean, the entire game is changing a lot. So if you're just casually playing, the game could be more difficult. But then if you look at new players, if you look at new streamers, I'm not going to mention any names. Uh, the game revolves around knowledge. So for somebody who is a new player, the game is definitely hard enough. It's probably too freaking hard to get into right now. But if you've been playing for like 3 years and you haven't been competitive, and the game is kind of getting easier for you because you've got the knowledge, but you just don't have to be fast about things. Yeah, it should be harder, but like I don't see a way of balancing that.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly have no idea. They have to cater to somebody. And honestly, the fact that they chose the top end players over the new players is pretty amazing as like a game design. Because really, new players have almost no way of getting into PoE, with like everything being super cryptic, like a 1990s game where you have to Google everything constantly, and then all the new mechanics. And I mean, if you're watch like a new player really get into Parandis League and meet their first box where almost everything's almost like immediately one-shotting them, like what the hell, what are they supposed to do?
Yeah, that's not
So
exactly a tutorial.
yeah, there's not exactly a tutorial. It's really, really freaking cryptic. They're clearly like, even if you look at the ascendancy classes, they're not explained anywhere. You roll a character blindly pretty much, and when you reach a certain level, you learn about labyrinths, and it's like, oh, so my character's got this like entire different aspect to the skill tree and all that. And I know they don't want to introduce all of it at once to a new player, but like, come on. At that point, they realize that their character sucks from the very beginning. They made a wrong decision,
Yeah.
and they either go, "Why would I even waste my time? Why wasn't this explained to me?" And they quit, or they have to reroll, right? Unless they don't really care about min maxing. But I don't think ascendancies are min maxing. Like
Mm-hmm.
ascendancies, for the most part nowadays, is what makes your character. It's not really a decision between getting 5 life or 10 attack speed. It's a it's a decision between how your character is going to play entirely. So it's pretty, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
And while we're talking about ascendancy, I think one of the biggest questions a lot of people have been asking lately has been duelist champion. How do you feel about it? Permanent fortify.
Overrated.
Overrated.
Yeah. I feel like it's really, really, really overrated. With the way whirling blades are, soon people will understand that you don't really need all that much to stay alive. And sure, endgame maps are a little bit different, and champion makes it easy to get into the game the same way, Iron Will used to work, or after all the physical changes, armor used to work, and all that stuff. Soon people will realize that, you only really need a little bit of evasion to stay alive. And I feel like also that's the reason why labyrinths are kind of in the game, because the game will be rebalanced at some point, and
Hmm.
GG is just trying to improve like player mechanics. Uh, so yeah, once people really work on their mechanics and not just try and face tank everything,
Hmm.
I feel like the game overall will also get a lot better, because there's going to be like more skill to it and not just, face tanking everything and laughing about how the game is easy with a when you don't have to do anything essentially to stay alive. Just leech maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question is an old school question, and it's by Van Sam. What's your favorite build in Nemesis slash Invasion?
Nemesis/Invasion.
Very old school.
That's very easy, actually. Nemesis by far dominating blow. I played so much dominating blow. I raced with it so much because they used to run multiple like 1 weeks and 1 months and all that sort of stuff. So I would always play Dom Blow. It would always be my go-to, like I want to win build. And then Invasion, something that was incredibly hipster back then, but not really hipster at all anymore, was Poison Arrow. Well, Poison Arrow Trapper in my case,
Hmm.
because back then Poison Arrow was just not strong enough.
Yeah.
Everyone had less damage. But I played that build so freaking much. I have a 97. I had multiple other characters over 90 on it. I participated in the 2 week race with it, which was the most hardcore freaking race ever. Uh, and yeah, a lot of fun memories for sure. So I'd say those two.
I'm really devastated. I missed Invasion.
You missed Invasion?
I know.
Oh man,
I was
Invasion
pretty casual.
was my favorite league, man. Like nothing even comes close to Invasion. The start was horrendous, but after they balanced everything out, it was so freaking good. It really uh, made you question the way you make builds, the way you clear maps, everything. Like it made people make much better characters and increased the overall skill level of everyone so freaking much. Yeah, the initial launch was pretty crazy, but then after the balance changes, and that's really why I loved GGG at that point, because they would constantly like they would release leagues under the idea that they will release this and then they're going to work on it and then they're going to put it into the core game if it works out, right? In terms of Invasion, it didn't quite work out because too many people quit at the very start, but that was the idea. Where nowadays they kind of released like unfinished content a month and a half into it. They finally finished releasing everything or like fixing the performance issues, and then the same thing happens the next league. So
It's-
a lot of good memories with Invasion.
Yeah, no, that's basically what happened to me. Like, I was pretty into Dota 2 at the time, but I played on launch day, got to Strand, and some invasion. I was the leap slammer just one shot me, and I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
Back to Dota 2. Fuck this.
Invasion actually made me quit too. I remember getting one shot by the spider in a courtyard. Both me and my friend, we just got instantly evaporated. That was the first time the game actually made me freaking quit. I quit for like, I don't know, like a week or something. And then I came back after all the balance changes, and it's like, yes, this is the best thing ever. I love it.
And the next question is very appropriate then. It's by Fred Pee and RaizQT. What is the time you got the most mad at Pee?
The most mad?
I hope it's the rollback.
No, the rollback was fun. I never really, I only ever, I know this sounds weird to people, but I troll a little bit with all the getting mad stuff. The only true times that I ever got mad, ever, in PoE was during the last racing season, where just like one time I got critted by something on like a incredible pace, like best freaking pace ever. And I got critted and died, and I actually rage quit the stream and everything. And then second time something similar happened. I think in the very last race of the season. Those were the only two times where I actually got mad, and the only two times where I actually rage quit the stream.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I've only reached with the stream once as well.
yeah, yeah.
You were
That's never
there.
happened to me
You were
before.
there.
Yeah, I was there. I remember that.
Ah, that's fucking glorious. Right. Do you think this is by Telecondre? Do you think the game is healthier with cheaper uniques, so Shavs being like 2 to 3x, Coil being 2 to 3x, and Voltaxic being like 1x? How do you feel about that? Do you think it's good for the game?
I think it's good for the game once the trading shifts more towards trading with rare items and all that stuff.
Mm.
It's kind of like it's kind of comparing to Diablo 2, where Diablo 2 Classic was all about the rare items, and Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction was all about the unique items and the runes and all that. And I feel like this is kind of similar where they're allowing us to use all these build enabling things like a Voltaxic and
Mm.
all that stuff. And sure, some of them are a little bit stronger than others, maybe a little bit too strong, like a Taste of Hate still, a Lightning Coil, a Voltaxic. Those things are really strong for hardcore players, by the way, because, well, Voltaxic is good anywhere, but like
Mm.
the game is definitely different. That's why GDG has to take into account when balancing both softcore and hardcore. Um, but I feel like the trading will shift more towards like really min-maxing your character around rare items at some point. But for now, everything's so fresh that it just hasn't happened yet. But then again, like for me, if I'm aware that I can get level 100 within a week, or attempt to anyway, I really won't focus nearly as much on trading because I'm gonna feel like it's kind of a waste of time. So yeah, I like the idea of rare items being more expensive and then everyone being able to play any build that they want. Because like if you look back, it was pretty insane when a Shavs costed like 60 exalted orbs.
Yeah.
And back then exalted orbs were a lot less attainable than they are now. And it was just so insane. People just wouldn't be able to ever play anything. And a Shavs is a very build enabling thing. So I do like it, but it definitely has its downsides now that I think will fade off in the future. Because I really hated Parandus at the start, but I feel like the community's adapting with the rare items, and in the end, it might be an all right addition to the game.
So you do actually want
Maybe
it in the core game?
you kind of, kind of. Again, if the community really adapts the way I think it might adapt, yeah. If that never happens, if people just don't care about it, then no. I do treat it a little bit like divination cards, and I really like some of the divination cards, like for instance, Flora's Gift, the 5 link card that drops in Tropical Island. It's like it's pretty freaking attainable. You can kind of farm it. Solo self found, it really helps you out. You can play the game the way you want. And I feel like if Kadiro would be the same way, maybe if every time you see a Kadiro, you have a choice between 3 items, for
All right.
instance, and then everything's like a lot more expensive, then that would be a little bit better. Because that way the solo self-found people and all the people who just want to avoid trading in the atrocious state that it is in right now can still play the game and not have to worry about all that stuff. But I honestly don't know what percentage of the community is like that, so I wouldn't know. But yeah, I think it would be an all right addition. As much as Rise from, a month ago would definitely disagree with me right now, I think for the overall good of the game, it is okay.
And how do you feel
Maybe.
about how do you feel about coin trading while we're talking about Piranhas? Like, do you think coin should be only what you're able to pick up yourself, or like per character, per account?
The way it is right now, yeah, I think so. Because I feel like players get too many coins.
Mm.
Um, yeah, but I feel, I like the idea of somebody finding a Parandus, I mean a headhunter in like a map, and he's like 10k coins off, and he can't trade, so now he has to farm Solaris and keep the instance up for like, 10 hours straight or something like that. I know that's really hardcore, extreme, and whatever, but I like that idea. It feels like, I don't know, it gives me like a World of Warcraft feeling or something. But it wouldn't be good for the game.
Fair enough. No, I see what you mean. I
Yeah,
think it would give it a little more self-found feeling as well with the coins.
yeah, yeah.
Next is by DTM, and it's Rice. When are you going to get a new PC instead of your current potato?
My current potato. My PC's pretty alright. I just need a graphics card. Eventually. Yeah, eventually. Currently I'm saving up money because there might be an opportunity where I'm going to be moving out, so a lot of the money stuff is very up in the air.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I don't feel like the PC that I've got right now is in any way hindering the viewing experience for anyone or the way the game plays for me. So yeah, not really focusing on that too much right now.
Cool. Next up by Exterior, if for some reason you wouldn't be able to live off streaming anymore, what would you do? But let's hope not, because I love your stream.
Well, I would build lightsabers.
Kill lightsabers.
Yeah, yeah. That was a dream of mine for the longest time before I started streaming, and I might get into it at some point. But yeah, that would probably be it. Maybe something to do with tricking, acrobatics, some sort of that type of shit. Maybe stick to because like I said before, I used to do a little bit of stunt work and stuff like that.
All
So
right.
maybe stick with that.
That's pretty
Yeah,
cool. Did not know that.
yeah.
Next one is by Larry93. Hi, Rise. I like racing as a shadow and generally make like top 20. What general tips would you have for someone that already has, like, that's already getting to top 20 to like push them to like top 10?
Practice, practice, practice. It's all about experience, really. It's sort of all about finding out what exactly works for you. Watching it really, nothing really changes the way you learn at first and the way you learn later, in my opinion. Watch better players than you, uh, and then just keep doing it. Just that's the key to everything. I feel like there's really no secret to anything aside from just doing it over and over and over and over again. But
Mhm.
if you want to be really efficient, learn from other people's mistakes. Yeah,
Cool. Next question is by Lady Katie. Do you and Rise think that Earthquake is balanced, or do you think it needs nerfs?
I haven't played it. I've seen it a little bit, and I definitely don't think that like it's not imbalanced. It's a melee skill that works.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's imbalanced at all, from what I've seen, but I haven't played it myself, so I don't know how far you can really push it. But from what I've seen, it's cool to have melee abilities that are so strong that do have a delay on them that you can't push really over the limit with like things like attack speed and all that, because I feel like that's really what is breaking the game a lot with whirling blades and all that, like attack speed. So this thing is delayed. There's always that downside to it. So I don't think it will ever get out of hand. And yeah, melee definitely needs to have playable skills.
Next is by Sneaky Jones. Rise, if you could design your own skill gem, what would it be like?
Oh
It has
man.
to wear pants.
Uh, uh, yes, honestly, for the longest time, I really liked the idea of a locust swarm type of thing. If somebody played D3,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and they added Contagion ED. So even though I would go about doing it a little bit differently, and in general, Prolif, I would change into something like that because they did have a design called Wildfire, where it was basically like Locust Swarm, but I don't know if they scrapped it or what, but if they would change Prolif to that, then yeah, that was my idea for the longest time. So right now, I can't really say. I wanted Poison Nova in the game from D2, and they basically implemented that a little bit also with this. So I can't think of anything too special in terms of mechanics that I would want in the game.
Yeah, cool. Um, Next is by Kiza. What is your opinion on the current clear speed meta? Like, do you prefer the current one or before, where it was a lot slower? Because, like, especially in Nemesis and stuff, we used to clear, like, take ages to clear things, whereas now it's like, vroom, map done in 1.5 minutes. What do you prefer?
I definitely, for me, myself personally, I definitely prefer the way the game used to be, where it was a lot slower. However, it limited a lot of things like build diversity and mechanics and player creativity and all those things. So even though I prefer the way the game was back then, because I do prefer a grind fest over the creative side of things, and I thought PoE at that point already had enough of that. I do feel like the current meta is way better for the overall
Mhm,
game, and it does allow players a lot more. Uh, like everyone just has a lot more options, essentially, which I think is really cool, and that really makes PoE stand out amongst ARPGs and does make it the best ARPG.
mhm.
So, yeah.
Next question is by Gayudi. Do you not think that DD should make it harder to reach level 100 so it does not just take 1 week?
I mean, people that say that, I don't feel like they really realized how much it takes to get level 100. As a person who's had like multiple 97s and fives, sixes in the past, I can tell you that even though it does take less time now, I don't find it easier, and you do have to be a lot more focused. Maybe it's a streamer thing, where it's
Mhm.
pretty difficult to stay focused on the game and follow everything on the stream and all that. So maybe my perspective is a little bit different. But yeah, that's yeah, yeah. I kind of do like it that it takes so little, and at the same time, I feel like the people that are saying that it does take only a week don't realize the amount of work that you have to put into it. Um, it did take Havoc like 8 days to get to 100, but it was 8 really freaking hardcore games from like one of the best people playing this entire game. So
Mhm.
it definitely is not at a point where it's too much, I don't think. Although it might be getting there if they keep adding like AoE and
Yeah.
everything to the game.
Yeah, no,
It's going in the direction where it might be too much, but right now, in my opinion, it's not quite there yet. And I feel like it should also be somewhat feasible for somebody who doesn't play this game 16 hours every day for 1 month to actually get to
mhm.
like level 95 plus, where in the past it was completely impossible. I mean, completely. Like when Baker got to 100, he had like 68 days or something played on his character.
Wow.
Like, I feel like that's way freaking
That's way
too
too
much.
much.
And that's the best player at that point in the
Yeah.
game, right? The best freaking player. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, like this league, I've had so many people come by and chat and be like, "Oh, Ziz, I just got my first level 90 ever," and I'm like, "That's great. That's a really good thing for the game that we get like so
Yeah.
many people." So
Yeah, yeah.
that's really good.
And who
Next,
really goes over that anyway, right? Like, let's
I
be
know.
honest. Who cares about the additional 5 skill points or whatever? So unless you wanted to be an achievement
Mhm.
for yourself personally, you really would never do it. And the people that want it as an achievement and play casually should have the option to actually get there,
Mhm.
I think.
Next question is by Babis. To both of you, are you ever afraid of what will happen to the future of PoE? Like maybe the game will die out.
The game dying out, I'm not really bothered by, although I am a little bit scared that it hasn't been growing at the pace that I thought it will, considering everything. But that's probably, and GGG admits this, due to, their deadlines and everything being a little bit hectic. But am I scared of the game dying out? Not really. I don't feel like the game's ever, like with the gaming industry and everything growing so much, and even ARPGs being in the point where they are, I don't feel like the game's ever gonna get smaller than it is right now, and it's big enough for me. So, yeah.
Next question is by Hawthorne. How can GDD balance chaos conversion in line with physical and elemental reflect? Or do you feel like chaos is okay the way it is?
Everything's really overpowered. I mean, let's be honest. Everything does enough damage. Chaos does stand out because of the double dipping a little bit. So I don't really have a solution to it, you know. I've seen so many people trying to balance that out, but I honestly don't think you can balance it out
Hmm.
without making it either too weak or limiting the amount of skills that can play with chaos, like
Yeah.
Spark and all that. I don't think there's a fix. I think with the way the game is going right now, continuing to make the other skills be a little bit like closer in terms of clear speed to chaos abilities is probably the better way than
Hmm.
trying to fix chaos. Because I've seen so many different people trying to find a solution, and from my perspective, every single one of them was just bad,
Hmm.
just bad.
Next one is by DTM again. Rise, how would you rate Zizaran's wingmanning skills? That
Bad.
was great. It was
This is a
fantastic.
terrible
It was
wingman, man.
fantastic.
What the
Oh, it
hell?
was so good.
At a
10 out of
point where
10.
Twitch chat is more useful than your friend Zizaran, you know something went wrong.
Oh, that was
Oh
hilarious.
boy,
Best moment of my life.
you're gonna have to fix that for me. God damn.
I'll get on that. That was good though. Um, and this is another chaos related question, and it's by Maraxis. What do you think the problem is with chaos builds? Does chaos have too many advantages over other builds, or do other builds simply have too many advantages? Like that
Yeah.
chaos solves.
Well, yeah, I think it ties into what I said before.
Yeah,
I don't feel like it's too much. I honestly don't. I know it stands out, but it's always gonna stand out unless you put it in the ground like they did with Proliv for like 2 years. So do you prefer that or do you prefer, more build diversity? Even though, well, I feel like there are more builds now that can compete with Chaos
yeah,
than in the past, where the build diversity at the high levels wasn't really that high. It's definitely much better with Chaos being the way it is compared to other abilities than, for instance, the way Proliv was compared to other abilities back then. Because now everything's kind of overpowered, and back then only Proliv was overpowered. Uh, maybe the off-screening stuff, like maybe a solution would be Chaos Reflect, just so people stop breaking the game by off-screening so much with the degens like Spark and all that. But yeah, I'm not good enough for this to actually think of a solution.
fair enough. It is pretty hard to be fair. Next question is by Dolwyn. What are some super fun high budget builds that aren't full toxic spark? I have a Shavs and a Skyforth.
Shavs in a Skyforth? Oh man, CI or low life and all that stuff is definitely not my
Yeah.
forte.
I wouldn't call that
Uh,
budget though.
yeah, that definitely doesn't sound budget. Uh, Anything. I mean, honestly, the game is just there's so many viable things in the game. You can just play anything. I've really been getting into. I feel like with all the changes, the totem builds are a lot more fun. There's like rotations to them, and you have to use multiple things and like keeping up frenzy charges and elemental overload on a lot of builds. I feel like totem stuff is really fun, and that's like super budget, but you can do anything and do pretty freaking well. It might not be like a very, very at the top chaos build, but you can do pretty
Hmm.
freaking well with just about anything.
So Arc Totems?
Right.
No.
I will prove to the community
Dude, I'm gonna
Arc
hold you
is
to it.
viable one day.
I'm gonna watch every day just to look these totems.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Next
Sure.
question is by Huxt. What ideas and features would you like to be added to PoE from other games? Like Diablo, Guild Wars, WoW, Minesweeper, stuff like that.
From other games. Wow. Two things. Something that freaking fixes all the performance issues. That's no doubt. And another thing that I've actually wanted, and this isn't necessarily for the game, but it does help growing the game is like more interactive stuff with for streamers. I played this one game called Sins of a Dark Age, and they had like a really interesting giveaway with MTX's system built into Steam. And I would really like something like that. I feel like it would really help the game grow and that type of stuff, but it's not necessarily into the core game.
Mhm.
But anything then other than that, I feel like GGG is doing a pretty good job at implementing the things that don't necessarily fit into ARPGs. They do pretty well with actually implementing them, like kind of, missions being dailies and all that stuff. So I can't really think of anything. Maybe aside from like the thing that I talked about before with having more options with Kadiro or maybe with divination cards, kind of the way maybe with crafting too, kind of the way Diablo 3 has, where they have a decision between three different things rather than one thing being there no matter what. So yeah,
Cool. So nothing from Minesweeper.
nothing from Minesweeper. No, Path of Math is
Okay,
already.
well, I guess we have bears. Uh,
Okay.
Next question is by Geritol. If the solo self-found format changed from hardcore to softcore, do you think the time to hit level 100 would increase or diminish?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
If the solo self-found format changed from hardcore to softcore, do you think the time to hit 100 would diminish or increase?
Oh wow. Probably increase, honestly. I feel like every ladder ever has proven that the softcore players try to be a little bit too cheeky for their own sake, and the hardcore players always come out on top due to that, because the softcore players always have that one random death, while with hardcore it's like, but like more people on average get to 100, and then if you compare it to hardcore, it's like, let's say 100 people race really hardcore and like one or two guys makes it through all the bullshit without dying, and then he's first because yeah, they never die. Well, with the softcore thing, a lot more people take risks. Even though, I mean, I don't mean to say that softcore people don't build up defenses, because obviously you need a well-rounded character to get to 100.
Yeah.
But I have not really seen a softcore player at level 100 without any deaths.
Hmm.
So I feel like it would take longer if it was a softcore race.
And next question goes back to we were talking about like the current league and stuff, and it's by the hand banana. Is some of the loot excitement gone now that almost all uniques are dirt cheap?
Mm, I don't know. I never really got excited about unique. For me personally, that's not the case. For me, the excitement was always map drops.
Hmm. Okay.
Whenever there's a map dropping, you know, everyone in the mumble or whatever screaming out the name and all that stuff. That's really exciting. The uniques never really brought much excitement to me, although it was cool to find. But uh, well, okay, because this has changed, right? Obviously, in the
Yeah.
past, finding a 60 exalted
Yeah,
orb
that's what I was gonna
worth
say.
Comb's heart, that was a little bit exciting, but I've long forgotten that feeling
Hmm.
ever since they've changed the tier 1 stuff. So, yeah, that's about it.
Cool.
Nothing excites me anymore. I'm a robot. Game's boring.
You're boring. I like it. Next question is by We Will Never Be Subs. What do you think about adding of AoE currency pickup like in Diablo?
An AoE currency pickup?
It would have
Oh
to be for
boy.
solo, right?
I
That
feel
would
like
be
this is a trick question. Like, it's really obvious what the downside is, but I can't think of a downside.
well if it's in a
Uh,
party, you have one person clicks first and all the currency's gone.
I mean, uh, I kind of like it. I'm sure there's some like really obvious downside. I don't think the party thing is that big of a deal. I do like the whole idea of players racing to currency, Diablo 2 style,
Mhm.
where everyone's just trying to pick everything up as fast as possible in like a free for all setup. But that really players don't play like that anymore. So
Yeah.
everyone plays in permanent allocation. Yeah, I think it would be okay.
Just
I
me on
think it would be all
FFA.
right. I mean, knowing GGG, they would make it so that AoE works with it, and you need an increased AoE gem in your unset ring or some shit like that, and that would make it really bad. But maybe, yeah, if it would be like a small AoE, picking up all the Parandis coins. I
Mhm.
don't know why they already
Oh, that'd
drop
be
one
good.
by one. It would be all right, but it would definitely increase the clear speed even further. So. But we're already at a level where people don't even look at loot. They just run Whirling Blade through everything, leave a bunch of dots behind, and that's it. I don't think it would affect the meta too much, aside from maybe making the game slightly easier with more players picking up more stuff
Yeah.
on average.
Yeah, a lot more wisdom scrolls and portal scrolls, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Next question is by Clay Wizard. How do you feel about the disparity between defense types everywhere, from maps to the lab to even the long-standing hyper terribleness of leveling ES focused?
I don't really understand the question.
Look at it. Disparity between defense. Right, reword your question. We'll get back to you, Clay Wizard. None of us understood
Yeah.
it. We're foreign. We'll blame it on that. Um, right. Let's see. Next question is by Carva Rooscrew Gaming. So, Rice, you mentioned that in the new league racing point of view, the game is hard. Did you mean staying awake 20 hours a day with 4 hours of sleep is hard?
I mean, yeah. I'm hearing some weird sound. Is that you or is that me?
I don't have any sound.
I don't know. I keep hearing like beeping stuff. Wait, so could you repeat that again?
Yeah. So, Rice, you mentioned that in the new league, the racing point of view, the game is hard. You mean staying awake for 20 hours with 4 hours of sleep is hard? Like, yeah. Do you
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
that's what makes it rippy?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Carve's obviously being the sarcastic asshole that he typically is, but
Oh,
yeah.
so nice.
Yeah, I mean that is the part of the difficulty. That's why I'm saying it's really hard to balance these things out because for the average casual Joe, uh, the game is very, very different than for somebody who does stay up and all that. But I think the question that this is tied into was the one about the 100 being too easy and all that stuff. So that is the difficulty. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I definitely feel like most of my rips are like 20 hours plus, and then it's like, why'd I talk to Megan? Um,
Yeah.
let's see. Next question is by It's Yoji. What do you
Mm.
think racing needs to become popular enough to actually be the future of PoE? Oh, I like it.
Support of GGG. That's really all there is to it. They might have already wasted a huge opportunity because I feel like the level 100 push is a lot less exciting now, with the common opinion being that the game is easier and ooh, it only takes a week and all that stuff that we've addressed before. So they might have already missed a big opportunity in terms of the long races because I don't feel GGG appreciates streamers and like growing the game through streamers enough. Uh, but yeah, if anything, it just needs more excitement from GGG, more announcements, more races, more balance changes, more listening to the community sometimes. Actually, um, talking to top racers about improvements and not necessarily implementing them immediately, but taking them into account whenever they do work on racing, which they haven't done in forever, despite the promises. Um, well, racing is changing, but it's changing very, very slowly, which makes it really unexciting for the average Joe
Mhm.
for the short races. So yeah, definitely GGG should just start freaking looking at it a little bit more,
Well, hopefully we'll
getting
have
it
the
out
race
there.
season in not too long. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people are hungry for that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Next question is by Joy Rocks 99. Rice, have you ever got a level 100 character, and what build did you achieve it with?
I did with a Summon Raging Spirits character, but it was the only character that I haven't raced with. So,
Hmm.
yeah. Another thing that ties into the difficulty, I feel like the game was. That's why my opinion came from before. I felt like when I wasn't racing, when I wasn't going against other people, the game was simple, like really, really simple. Getting to 100 was really simple, but yeah, I
Oh,
feel like I end every sentence with but yeah.
you do, by the way. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. I'm surprised the chat hasn't called me out yet, or maybe they did, but I'm just not seeing it.
It's okay. You should see the amount of buttums I have to edit out of my YouTube videos. It's
Yeah.
like 50 to 60 on average. Next question, it's by Delkey. Hey Rise, been loving the recent YouTube videos. What was your motivation in starting this series, and will you be expanding on it to non-PoE content?
The reason was, well, I've wanted to do, because to some people that don't know,
Yeah, can you explain
my
a little bit about
YouTube's
your series?
yeah, my YouTube stuff basically, I've been doing a lot more in terms of builds and like dev reviews and stuff like that, and high stream highlights and all that stuff. And
Hmm.
I've wanted to work on my YouTube forever, but I could just never keep up with everything. Where my main focus is streaming, so I do want to stream for 8, 10, 12, 13, 14 hours every single day. But if I have to do YouTube stuff, and the quality content that I did want to put out on YouTube, it was just impossible to time manage. But now that I found Hazor, or he volunteered to actually do this stuff after I've been looking for people to do this for a while, that really enabled me so freaking much, and
Hmm.
it's so exciting to me, to be honest, because I've always wanted to do this stuff, and I knew that people might enjoy it, and the feedback has been great, and Hazer's been doing an amazing job, and I'm really thankful that he decided to do it.
Cool, that's really good. And
Yeah.
are you going to be expanding into non-PoE stuff?
Possibly in the future. I do have some non-PoE content, but obviously the core of the stream wants to watch PoE.
Hmm.
So I do expand to other games every now and then, but I'm having so much fun right now with PoE. It's hard to comment on when I'll be playing something else aside from poker.
Poker skill. We need to set up a poker tournament. Um,
Right, right.
Next question is by Alan. Why do you love KFC so much? And I actually don't know where the KFC meme is from myself. So,
I don't know. I just used to eat KFC, but I don't really love KFC all that much. I just really get a craving every once a month for something for KFC, and I just get it. But then after 2 bites into it, I feel terrible already. So every time I eat KFC, I'm just like, oh, I'm never eating this again. And then a month later, I get a craving and I just eat it. So that's where it came from. Because I used to actually eat KFC quite a bit. Whenever racing or whatever, I would just order a bucket of KFC and eat that stuff
hmm,
for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and everything for like 2 days straight. Being a healthy human being, just
it's.
devouring like 1,000 chicken legs every day, no problem.
I really want KFC now. Uh, so, Clay Wizard reiterated his question a bit. So, I think what he's mainly asking is, like, how do you feel that it's pretty hard? Like, you can't really level as ES, like, especially the first, like, 60 levels. How do you feel about that? And ES in the lab is suicide.
Mm, I don't really feel like it's a big enough issue for GGG to address it.
Hmm.
Like, I understand it's annoying for some players, but I feel like with the amount of stuff that they have to do, uh, they won't ever touch it, really. I know it's pretty disappointing for a lot of people out there, but the game is good enough the way it is right now. Would I prefer for everything to be balanced and for yes to be playable from the beginning and this and that? Yeah, for sure, but it's just there's no reason to look for solutions for something that's never going to get fixed.
Hmm. Cool. And next question, something that's been discussed a lot by Cons 8406, and it's do need to add a Chaos Reflect?
Yeah, like I said before, maybe a Chaos Reflect would be a good solution.
Really?
I mean, I think, look, a better way of doing this would be for everyone to list their solutions for a chaos fix, and for me to respond to something like that. Because every solution that I've heard so far is like greatly flawed,
Mm.
like really, really flawed. And I don't feel, like I said before, that they need to nerf chaos. I feel like they should bring the other things up to the level of chaos as the game is just going in that direction and the players do like it. And sure, the most disappointed players, the most hardcore ones, are the most outspoken because they
Mm.
want the game to be the way it was before. But you have to accept that for the core game, for the game's growth, for all the improvements, it is better the way it is. So the only thing that I would address for Chaos is the off screening,
Yeah.
and Reflect would potentially maybe help it. But I mean, it's like saying Chaos needs less damage. Wow, you give it less damage, you make it either useless or it stays the exact same way it was. Like nerfing Consuming Dart didn't help anything.
Mm.
Implementing map mods that counter Chaos, well, you're always going to have enough damage, so fixing that doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
Uh, there's just no good solution, really. And even for Reflect, like that's why I'm mentioning the things that I just did,
Mm.
because for Reflect, you just pick up Volpact. I mean, you drop
Yeah.
one damage gem, you pick up Volpact, boom, the off screening is fixed. There's really nothing that is good enough and won't butcher Chaos in its entirety.
Yep.
So, and
It's a pretty
GGG
hard
really
subject.
is quite skeptical about that. They always want players. I feel like they will nerf Chaos. I don't know how yet, but I feel like Chaos will be just unplayable next league because the way they balance things is always they implement something into the game. Everyone plays it. Everyone says it's super meta, this and that. They nerfed it a tiny little bit for the next league, which is what they did with like Consuming Dark and a lot of those things. And then people continue to play it, and then the next league they just completely trash it.
Mm.
And they do these things because Chris Wilson himself has stated in the past that uh, they don't want to kill abilities for players, because when they nerfed the block and when they nerfed crit, there was a huge community backlash, and now they're incredibly skeptical about nerfing things that are super mainstream and that affect so many of people's characters. It's like the Volspark thing.
Mm.
Volspark is still definitely playable, but GGG said that it's been nerfed in every single way and this and that, and every player is like, "Well, Volspark, I'm never fucking. My character is ruined. I'm quitting PoE." That happens so often, so they're really, really careful about these
Mm.
things.
I think the way they nerfed Bladeful was pretty perfect. Like Bladeful's still really usable as a skill, and it got tuned down a little bit on like you need to actually scale it a little bit now instead of just going like, "Hey, I only have life."
Yeah, but Blayful isn't good. Like people might think that it's good, but it's mechanically it's incredibly limited. The same reason why things like Shockwave Totem are falling behind,
Mm.
because mechanically, compared to some other things that just have much more AoE,
Yeah.
they're limited. They don't have that endless scaling potential
Mm.
like Spark does,
Yeah.
or I don't know, like Ice Nova, for instance, something that people don't really play. But an Ice Nova that covers up the entire screen with every
Yeah.
player having more than enough damage, it's
For sure.
it's pretty crazy.
Next question is by Phantom Rogue. Do you feel that PoE is still approachable, specifically hardcore? Seems to require way too much of a time investment for people that only play an hour or two a day and still enjoy it. Because obviously we have more and more content being added to the game. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, like I said before, it's unapproachable. The game is cryptic. New players, GG really like, even when they're not being super PR, like with what Rory stated on the podcast, a different podcast where they would like with the ascendancy classes and everything, they really don't care about new players. I mean, there was a period of time where they did, but now they're focusing on end game and like the game going into a different direction. So
Mm.
is it unaccept? I think it's unacceptable, honestly, the way it is right now, and it's definitely unapproachable for newer players for a 2016 game, for players to have to Google things constantly. Like,
Do you think it
sure,
needs a
Google.
tutorial?
Oh yeah. Oh, no doubt. In
Mm.
general, that's one of the biggest flaws of PoE. It's just too cryptic. It's not. There's not enough visuals. There's not enough effects. There's not enough things that are telling you what to do, or this thing's about to explode, or the glowy thing. Stay away from that. It's just very. So often you see players die to something. They're like, "Oh, I don't even know what I died to," or like bearers are a perfect example of something like that,
Mm.
or like them taking like 2 years to give an animation to Nemesis mod so that a barely visible animation, by the way, to Nemesis mods so that every now and then you manage to avoid a volatile that's going to instantly kill you. Things just need to be more visible. Things need to be more approachable for newer players. And it was a matter of time that the game will get to a state where there's just going to be too much shit for,
Mhm.
for everyone to get into it with the Parandis boxes, I mean, and the Nemesis mods and everything. But I honestly thought that they're gonna start looking into tutorials and all that, but they really, as much as they, in my opinion, don't appreciate enough the streamer community, they really did leave it all to streamers like Lifting Nerbro and Ziggy to explain things to players. And I don't know if that's a good thing,
Mhm.
because like racing, Ziggy D can only do so much to advertise himself and like for people to get in touch with him and really see his videos. GGG
Mhm.
has all the power, and since they're not in any way trying to push it the same way they're not pushing like XYZ, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying. What's the
Maybe
trade?
trade.
The PoE trade. They're not trying to push that and let players know that these things you can do. Uh, it's a big problem.
Mhm.
It's a big problem, and maybe they're gonna look at it in the future. But for now, the way they're so backed up on everything, I feel like it's not gonna come anytime soon. But eventually, they're gonna be forced to do it because there's just gonna be too many old school players quitting and not enough new players coming in. So maybe that would be, like we talked before, maybe that would be the only way where the game would start to get smaller.
Yeah.
But I'm sure GGG will recognize it and they will react appropriately. Because, as much as I trash talk them, and it's hard to mention all the good things that they do, they are a very good company and they they're really smart. So eventually, I'm sure they're going to notice.
Yeah, no, they definitely do a lot of good, but it's especially with doing so much, it's hard to do everything right, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Exactly.
next question is about the lightning golem totem. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
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 How do you feel about the lightning golem totem? Totem, lightning golem being added to the game.
Meh. Golems are meh.
But you did a lightning build. I actually thought that would be a bigger question for you because you did a golem build.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like it's such a tiny buff, and definitely some ascendancies have made golems a lot more interesting. But I
Hmm.
still feel like it should have been more of a summoner thing, or there should have been something more complex than just a buff that runs around behind you. I do understand that they're trying to address the player concern of one button builds, and for players to do like different button combinations and for them to do something more than just clicking one button. So they're essentially adding a rotation to the game through the golems, but you can automate them, and it's it's just so it's kind of necessary for a lot of builds, and a lot of players dislike it. So adding more golems, while necessary for them at this point, because so many players asked about it because they were hyped about it,
Yeah.
I feel like people are just gonna be disappointed with it because it's just another static buff. It doesn't add anything to your build. It doesn't make it build enabling. Maybe some golem builds, uh, but those aren't really too popular, and I don't feel like it will add enough. So yeah, I feel like golems are kind of a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, I think they could expand a little bit more on them. Right now, I don't really enjoy having. It's just a waste of slot, in my opinion, because I always forget having it up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can automate it, but I feel like maybe if they would make it more like Animate Guardians, like
Hmm.
I keep mentioning Diablo 2, but like Animate Guardian combined with like an Iron Golem, with like different elemental aspects to it, the way it is in the game right now, I feel like that would be a lot more interesting. But it might be a little bit overpowered for like the left side of the skill tree only
Yeah.
because that's where you get the regeneration nodes for minions and stuff like that. But there's definitely room for some interesting stuff to happen them there. But for right now, yeah, it's literally just a tiny buff that runs around with you.
Next question is by Leary. What do you think about the current state of endgame, especially like the amount of people that can now farm at Ziri, do Uber at Ziri, and like tier 12 maps? There's sort of like two different questions though about Adzerian maps, but yeah.
Wait. Again, what was the question?
How do you
Sorry.
feel about the current state of endgame? The amount of players that can farm Uber and Adziri and tier 12 plus maps.
Better than ever, probably.
Hmm.
Because focusing more on players constantly re-rolling interesting builds, I feel is much better than one player playing like a character forever and
Yeah.
then quitting the game essentially, not re-rolling something else, which is the case for most players because most players just don't commit nearly as much. So I feel like it's better,
Yeah, I think it's
more
very, very
accessible to
healthy
people.
for the game.
Yeah, and I mean, running T15's map and really testing your character with map mods and stuff like that, it's still quite difficult and inaccessible for a lot of players. So it's not like they've removed the hardcore aspect from the game at all.
Yeah. Next question is about Whirling Blades by Lotion Explosive. Do you think Whirling Blades needs a nerf, or do you think other movement abilities need a buff?
I think they should remove whirling blades from the game.
Wow. Did not see
Yeah,
that coming, actually.
I mean, I can understand in the short term because I always was a big fan of like teleportation skills and all that stuff. For whatever reason, for me personally, Whirling Blades feels really bad in the game. It feels like because of the pacing of the game, it just really breaks it. I hate the fact that Fortify is so strong with it. It's just too much utility. It's too good compared to movement speed. There are a lot of characters. Well, that would kind of limit it too, because I'm thinking, a lot more players would play champion, but
Mhm.
then I also think that the champion would be, at one point the champion's really not going to be as big of a factor for players. But at the same time, when everyone's got enough damage, then why not play a champion anyway? Because you're going to do enough aside from like a build enabling ascendancy and stuff like that. So I personally don't like whirling blades, but I can understand why it is the way it is. And uh, the thing that I hate right now is that it's basically only whirling blades and movement speed. I feel like if Flame Dash was a little bit better, if maybe they would reduce the cooldown on Blink Arrow, that would make it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
And I haven't played like because that Whirling Blades nowadays is like what Lightning Warp used to be, where
Hmm.
everyone would play with Lightning Warp. And I haven't played with the Lightning Warp since they fixed it, and I don't really like because the game was such a different pace. I can't really tell how fast Lightning Warp can get now. So yeah, maybe Lightning Warp is good enough right now, but there still remains the aspect of with Whirling Blades you get 4 to 5, which is really
Hmm.
freaking strong.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Next question is obviously we've been having a lot of server crashes lately. So Dodaman is asking, do you think GGD should do a rollback when a lot of people die in hardcore because of servers?
They do rollbacks. I think I said they do. They they try to anyway. I think maybe happened a couple times this league just because of the sheer amount of problems that has happened. That's never been the case before. We've never had this many problems,
Hmm.
but they do rollbacks. It's just maybe once or twice they forgot or things didn't go the way they wanted, and there wasn't a rollback. But they can't really like being the company that they are, like with the game as big as this, they can't really fiddle with that stuff. I know like for instance when Quinn died to like a lag spike, uh his chat went like completely berserk, and that was a huge indication because everyone kept telling him to like message support and stuff like that. And imagine everyone always messaging
Yeah.
support about that stuff. That would be completely insane. And then with Quinn, it was like his internet messed up, and like he was saying that his logout didn't work. I don't know. A lot of people have probably seen this rip, but like his logout didn't work. But obviously, your logout doesn't work when you're disconnected from the
Yeah.
game because of your internet, because there's no input. It's not a single player game. And I just can't imagine the amount of people that would message GG about this for legitimate rollbacks individually, and then the 50 times more people that would message GG
Mm.
because they think something happened that really didn't, you know? That's why I really like streaming. I really like recording the stuff that I do because so often whenever my character dies, I'm under an impression that something happened, but then when I rewatch the replay, something else entirely happened. Which, I'm quite an experienced player. A lot of other people who don't play as much and don't have access to reviewing their
Yeah.
deaths, uh, their impressions are very different about this too. So it would just be unreal. But they try and do rollbacks. It just doesn't quite always work out.
There was actually a guy on my stream 3 or 4 days ago. He was doing it Zeri, and he died, and then the servers crashed. He rolled back to alive, and he was like, "Yes."
Oh, that happened to Embu also
Oh,
that we
nice.
play. Yeah, it actually happened to Embu. That was
That's
pretty
pretty
funny.
funny.
Yeah. I only
Um,
lose 5 links
I
when
was
I get
about to say it's
rollbacks,
not
which is
only
bad,
bad
man.
things, Spice. It's not only bad things. Let go of the
Yeah.
heart.
It's actually really funny whenever I message anyone from GGG, they always laugh about that shit. It's like I'm talking to Bex and she's gonna throw it out there. It's like
Wow,
an office joke now. I don't know, man.
it was so good. Next question. It's Yoji. To turn it around, then, should the race to 100 be easier to open up the race to people with no jobs other than streamers and like hardcore players?
I would like for something like that to happen. Um, I think experimenting with things like this and like with the slash playtime being the only factor, and like with 100 taking less or maybe races until like level 90 or something, I would like for stuff like that to happen for GDD to experiment with these things. But I honestly don't have the numbers. I wouldn't be able to tell you definitely what is better for the game. The system that's implemented right now works, but a lot of people are
Mm.
getting tired with it, and the common uh, the common idea of the community is that 100 is too simple. So maybe something that would show them that it's really not that simple, if they would make it more approachable and then people would do it and they would still fail, would be good to show really how much players like Havoc or Kramer or whatever, how much respect they really
Yeah.
deserve. Yeah.
So, next question is a real life question by Jolly Fox. What TV shows do you watch when not playing or streaming?
Watch what TV shows do I watch? I only watch The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones really, and then I watch a whole bunch of anime. You know, Hunter x Hunter I recently finished.
One Punch
Obviously
Man?
One Piece. Yeah, One Punch Man. I even have an emote of that. But TV shows. I mean, I would love to watch more Curb Your Enthusiasm, but they don't make freaking new stuff. Larry is a problem. But that's definitely my favorite show, and I wish they would make more of it. But it's rip.
Next question is by Prodigy Kid. What stat do you think is underrepresented in the skill tree, and do you think that more jewel slots further from the Scion tree would be beneficial?
What stat is unrepresented? What?
Underrepresented. Like, for example, damage over time. Like bleed.
Mm, uh, Maybe some elemental stuff, but I don't think there's anything like that really. Yeah, maybe the bleeds, but I mean, bleeds can get so broken so fast,
Mm,
so I really wouldn't mess around
not
with
true.
dot stuff. Like, that's the problem. GGG has been doing a pretty good freaking job at balancing out
Mm,
dot skills, but it's really hard in an ARPG to either make it too weak or way too strong. So I wouldn't really mess around with that stuff. There was a second part of that question.
oh, and do you think like more jewels further from the Scion tree would be good? Like right now we have like a lot of jewels very, very in the middle of the Scion tree, and then if you're very hard out in a skill tree, it's harder to get jewel slots.
Not really. I kind of like the way it
Mm,
is right now. I feel like jewels are really strong, and because of ascendancies, the Scion is no longer the master class by any means.
mm,
So if people are choosing other classes because of ascendancies, uh, and they're choosing to have less access to jewels, which was the main reason to play Scion in the past, I don't feel like we have to mess around with that too much. I mean, at the end of the day, aside from a couple build enabling jewels, characters don't really need that many jewels because it's primarily damage.
mm.
There's there's not too many build enabling things. So because it's just damage, you don't have to mess around with that too much. If anything, less jewels would be better because jewels are a big problem. Because they're making it's really easy to scale your chaos stuff through jewels, right? And like we said before, chaos is a little bit out of hand, a little bit. And with jewels, it's really easy to scale that stuff if you're using a projectile. I mean, you've got so many double dipping setups, area damage, chaos. There's the dot damage, increased damage, totem damage, trap damage, the projectile damage. There's just so many double dipping things that making it a little bit less accessible
Yeah.
is a good thing. If people are also choosing other ascendancies, which in my opinion is much more interesting to choose an ascendancy and for that to be the build enabler and not something else.
Cool. Next question by DGN1. What makes a good stream for you? Either watching or you yourself streaming?
I don't really watch too many other streams other than Djibouti Show. I really enjoy streaming myself. I've been doing it for a while. It's not really dying off for me at all. So, yeah. I feel like maybe my answer would be a little bit different, but I don't watch too many streams because there's not too much content that interests me. Watching Quinn has been quite interesting because it really opens my eyes to how a new player's perspective is. And that's something I really enjoy in Path of Exile, the same way when Angry did that whole series with his girlfriend where she started playing Path of Exile, and that was incredibly interesting for me to watch how a new player really approaches the game, and especially somebody who's
Mhm.
not too familiar with ARPGs. That gave me a lot of perspective on things, and maybe it also helps out GGG with balancing out the game and all that. Yeah.
Cool. Let's see. I'm just scrolling down, trying to find another question here. A lot of people aren't tagging with that PC child. It's a bit hard to find the questions. And Weasel just made me laugh really hard by accident.
I think I heard you, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I almost choked.
Oh, okay.
Apparently,
Oh,
I was smiling
I
too
think
much into the camera, and he said, "Imagine
yeah.
meeting him in an
You
alley
guys
with."
should see what I'm looking at because I don't see
Yeah,
his face. I'm seeing a picture, and this picture, trust me,
it's
it's
more intense than my smile.
oh yeah, it's pretty intense. I can show you maybe later on stream. It's pretty intense.
It's pretty.
It's scary intense.
Let's
You could
see.
not say no to that face. I'll just say that.
If you, oh shit, go right by Side TV. If you could be Chris Wilson for 2 weeks, what would you make GGD work on? Just
If I could
imagining you
be
as Chris now.
performance and
Hmm.
racing, just fucking do it. Just go. More performance fixes, and I'm not just talking about the stuff they messed up with Parandis. I'm talking about like burning ground and all the things that have been in the game forever. Race doesn't affect loading times. Uh, and then racing, just really getting racing out there. And I know this is a really odd perspective to a lot of people, but I really feel like they should work with really good content producers like Ziggy and like
Yeah,
Lifting. They should work with them more to just really get PoE out there, especially Ziggy, who has like this huge, forum. He can get out to so many people, and they just don't work enough with the streamers, and they don't appreciate enough how much streamers can really give the game nowadays. So I would definitely focus on that, but I can also see how their perspective is very different on things because they don't stream personally and all that stuff, right? So, but if I was Chris Wilson, that's what I would do. I
yeah.
would definitely try and get PoE out there a lot more through streamers,
Cool.
like they do with Crip, for instance,
Yeah,
but not just with Crip.
not just with Crip. Cool. Next is by Lotion Explosive. Do you think that reworking the masters to require way less XP to hit A would be a good or a bad thing?
I never do masters. I honestly don't know. I've never attempted to get a master above level 7 even. I got to 100 and my Zana was like level 6. So, yeah, I
Hmm.
honestly don't know. It's not something that
Level
affects me.
6?
Yeah, my Xana was legitimately not even level 7.
Wow.
So, and that's on a 100 character. So, judging from that, and if other masters are as hard to level, I think they should do something about it, but I honestly can't tell how long it takes. I just I just can't. I
It
never
takes
really
a
do
while.
masters. Yeah. I get, I don't want to say this because they're never gonna play with me again, but I get my bitch boys to do all the master stuff for
Ooh.
me.
Hey, I just crafted for you. Feels bad, man.
Yeah, yeah, but you love me no matter what, so
I
it's
do, I
alright.
do. You're hard not to love. Next question is by
You're hard not to love too with this face that's looking at me right now.
I'll have to show it after stream. Um, Next question is by Donovan. What about empty access rewards for races?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I
It's
think
the
that
thing
would.
that I talked about before also with the giveaways through streamers for the MTXs and small stuff, really tiny stuff. I think GGG's I'm being so negative again about this because like I said before, you guys are asking me questions that are a problem, right? And a
Yeah,
form of problem. So I have to be kind of negative about the things because I do generally agree with the things being said. But I feel like the cost of the MTXs is atrocious. Their entire setup with that is really, really bad, and they should experiment with different ways of monetizing their game. And giveaways have proven to be really freaking good in just about every huge game,
yeah.
be it through streamers, be it through some sort of observation systems, random drops, whatever. Especially when the actual MTX is like body armors and all that stuff is like 50 freaking dollars. Like, come on. So small giveaways would go a long freaking way, be it through racing or just passively players getting rewarded by MTXs through just being online or something like that, or being in Twitch channels, for instance, right? If somebody passively gets rewarded with an MTX by being on a stream,
Mm.
more people will be on streams, thus pushing PoE further on the Twitch ladder, and more people watching and realizing that a game like that is out there. And this is just streaming. There are plenty of other ways to approach new players or potential players through other means.
Mhm.
So racing is definitely a form of that, but they should do it everywhere, like freaking everywhere.
Next question is by Svenskin, and it's Rice. What do you think about Quinn's stream? And obviously, like a lot of more D3 players have been moving over to Path of Exile lately. So, how do you feel about this?
I really like his stream. I think it's a lot of fun. Like I said before, it's a really great perspective of a new player who is a veteran ARPG player.
Mhm.
It's really interesting to see how the community reacted to a new D3 guy. I mean, there was the whole Moldren fiasco, and there's streamers like Manor Cookie who really are Path of Exile streamers now, even though they were
Mhm.
Diablo 3 streamers, and it's all incredibly interesting to me. The social aspects of it is really, really freaking cool. And obviously, I'm interested in streaming and I'm interested in how the community reacts to all these sorts of things. So his stream alone personally is quite a bit of fun for me. But then also the other aspects tied into it are even cooler.
Cool. No, that's good.
Yeah.
Let's see. Had a few dupe questions. As in duplicated questions, not about duping. Oh,
Right.
okay. By Jerital. Rice, if you were to make that dude Zizaran play one build, either terrible or glorious, what would it be and why?
Easy. Elemental hit
Oh
Claw
my fucking
Templar.
god. What the
Duh.
hell? I might do that now.
Hell yeah. I can't believe I'm the only one who suffered through, I mean, had so much fun with that build. You should definitely try it out, Ziz. But if anything, yeah,
Hell yeah.
Elemental Hit Claw Templar would
Oh my god.
definitely be something you should check out in the future. No doubt. Poke poke.
Oh
Represent.
my god. Um, Fuck that. Next question is by Hacks. Thoughts on the latest engine update announcement? Do you think it will improve game performances overall? And what about a option to disable all MTX visuals?
Yes, all of those things.
All of those
Let's do
things.
it. It's about time. Just do it.
Um,
It's something that's just people have been talking forever, so I don't feel like,
yeah.
always having more options is always better. There's no to that. If somebody doesn't want to do that, they don't have to do it. I understand GGG's perspective on a lot of these things because Chris has said that a lot of people get discouraged from PoE because of the way it looks, and if they make it so that players can disable shadows entirely and like this sort of stuff, the game looks like trash unless people play it. But at the same time, looking at their track record, uh, the way they've been doing things is very different. So yeah, more options is better. Give us options, god damn
Mhm.
it.
Next question is by Hippo Rage. Would you like more 1 week races with larger rewards instead of those 15-minute races?
Mm. Would I prefer it over the other one?
Yeah, instead of.
I mean, I want more. I want both, but
You just
if I
want
would have
everything.
to, yeah, I want everything, man. I mean, the community's big enough. GGG's getting big enough. We deserve this stuff. Trading, let's go. But oh, if I'd have to choose, probably for the sake of the game, I would prefer the longer races with bigger rewards because it's just much higher incentive for players to actually participate and grow the game. So for the sake of the game, I'd say big rewards are the way to go.
Cool.
Yeah.
I just want everything too. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Let's just get
More
everything.
choice. More choice is good.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it works for other games. I don't see why it wouldn't work for PoE. More choice is good.
Um, Next question is by Kinman. How can you play PoE for so many years again and again? I play for 1 month max for every league and then I get bored. Any tips?
Always look for goals. Try before you're bored. That's the biggest mistake that I've made in the past. Before, I wouldn't look for new goals to do in the game before I was bored. And then once I reached that wall where I was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, I always had something else to do. If I don't do that, I get really bored and frustrated and all that. But I also have extra incentive to do something like that, obviously, because I stream, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
you know, and I do this for a living too. So I don't
It's
know,
my
start
job.
streaming for a living. Like maybe that's a solution. Uh, yeah. As much as I'm saying that jokingly, by the way, more people should be streaming
Mhm.
PoE and growing the community. Be freaking helpful.
Well, while you brought that up, do you have any tips to anyone who wants to start streaming or is looking to get into streaming?
Oh yeah, Viewbot. Viewbot the shit out of it. No, no, all
So you
jokes
told me and
aside.
I did it, but damn.
Yeah, yeah, hell yeah. I'm not gonna incriminate myself, but I would say something too. Incriminate, sorry.
JK, JK.
Um, but yeah, just take your time with it. Like I said before, definitely take your time with it and approach it like everything else, where it's a build up, and just be patient. Try and improve, self-reflect, like with everything else, and it's just gonna work out eventually. It might take you a month, it might take you a year, it might take you 5 years.
Mhm.
For me, it took me 3 months before anyone was watching the stream, and then it was a huge boom. There is
Yeah.
in PoE, like once you get those 10 viewers, which is so freaking hard to get,
Mhm.
your stream really starts snowballing really well. And I mean, you can look at really successful streamers like Pox, who stream different games and all that stuff, and he's been streaming forever, man. And he was really invested into it, and he did it systematically for a really freaking long time, like 4 years or something now, if
Yeah.
not longer. And it worked out. So as long as you put your heart into it, you do it, Mr. Destructoid.
The Destructoid. Rise is confirmed here, but um next question is by Nujasi. Would PoE community grow more if GDD would support the solo self-found challenge, perhaps enabling a SSF feature on the character creation or something along those lines?
Yes, however, there is a problem. I mean, obviously it would grow more. However, there is a problem with that because there has been talk with Chris Wilson, and sadly, their PR team has decided that the player retention in the league is really high right now, and I'm quoting, and they do not want to advertise it because they feel like it would split up the community.
All right.
So they are willing to advertise in the future. They are willing to really help out the community with these types of events, and they are supportive of the community being creative about these things. However, they want to do it at their own pace and not something that, we kind of force upon them.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Um, Sort of a question by Donut. How do you feel about PoE trade being like external?
terrible. It's like it's laughable, really. I mean, I can't say anything else. Like it's literally laughable. That after such a long time and after everything, they come up with the premium stash tabs, and it still uses an its external website, and the game is growing. All these things are changing, and yet the trading, which is such a huge aspect of an ARPG,
Mhm.
it literally makes and breaks games. I mean, look at the opinion about Diablo 3 and all that. It literally makes and breaks game, and somehow it hasn't entirely ruined PoE the way it has for Diablo 3, but it's definitely affecting, I feel, a much bigger amount of people than GGG feels like, and they're not addressing it fast enough.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Sorry. Let's see. Next question is by DT. Next question is by DTM. Rice, do you think they should remove Cruel? Or do you like the three times replays of each content on each reroll? And for new players, how do you think how do you think this affects new players?
I like it. I think it's bad for the game.
Hmm.
I personally like it. I really enjoy the leveling process. I mean, I rip a whole lot, so I'm forced into enjoying it. I just had to pressure myself into loving it. But all jokes aside, I think that the game is really freaking well made. If you compare it to other ARPGs or other games in general, where the leveling process is just kind of something sort of a too long tutorial to get to end game, and so many times you hear about every other game being, oh, you haven't played end game, or wait until you get to end game, and all that sort of stuff. With PoE, that's really not the case, and the more you do it, the greater appreciation you have for it, and the more you understand the min-maxing aspects of leveling, and that's also what makes racing so freaking interesting and why it's so good. I feel like it's kind of like a miracle, really. It's like a Smash Bros, where it wasn't supposed to be this competitive and this interesting, and so many small things about it making such a big difference.
Hmm.
But it is that way, and that's one of PoE's biggest strengths, where the game really starts. But a newer player can't really appreciate that.
Yeah.
They can't really appreciate that, and I feel like Cruel really might be a little bit unnecessary at this point. Maybe one more act,
Yeah.
maybe keeping the trials, which everyone hates. So I don't know if that's a good idea, but maybe keeping the trials and like the both the difficulties instead of next league reducing it to just one difficulty. The trials being an actual trial, not
Uh-huh.
something that you have to get through. Maybe that. I don't feel like it's at a point yet to remove Cruel, but eventually it should happen.
Cool. Yeah, I feel pretty much the same way. Like, especially if they add one or two more, then I think Cruel has to go eventually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pinatra's asking, do you think moving to another game engine is a requirement or would be better?
Honestly, I don't know about anything about the technical side of things. Anything that improves performance, and that really being the key point, is necessary. The way the game is right now is it's just gotten a little bit too far, especially with Parandus.
Mhm.
But I honestly don't know the technical side of things, if it would like make the graphics better or whatever. I really don't care about those aspects,
Yeah.
although a game being prettier definitely increases the amount of players playing it or being introduced into the game. I mean, people think that PoE is like a freaking 2D game and everything if you look at the screenshots, or if you watch
Yeah.
streamers play this league where everyone's got shadows disabled and they're still running around on 15 FPS and like it's all choppy and stuff. It's ugly. So
Mhm.
if it would help that out, then it would be great. Because once you really get into PoE, I feel like it gains a lot if you just look at the actual art of things and the way uh, the way everything ties into each other, the way it ties together, the music and all that. It really has a great nostalgic feel to it,
Yeah.
but it all falls flat because of the immediate problems of the performance of the game.
Yeah, we were actually watching. I don't know if you remember the like Talisman rip video. That was like a highlighted.
Yours?
No, no, no. I have loads.
Which one?
Just there was a big compilation, and everyone was saying, "Well, like, wow, look how smooth Talisman was." So definitely
Yeah.
we're a bit unlucky this league.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the primary reason why I kind of was more and more thinking about the solo self-found thing because I just can't play with people
Mm-hmm.
anymore. Like
It's too laggy.
maps are just undoable for me, and at the same time, I have to think about the things that the game has to kind of look good. It just has to look good no matter what because when somebody's watching a stream and it's choppy, it's just not fun for them, and it definitely makes them want to leave.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. It
Mm-hmm.
all ties in together.
This is something we were talking about earlier about we were talking about how streamers get to like replay their deaths and learn from them. Just is asking, how about GGG adding an instant death replay?
Mm.
That'd be pretty cool.
Impossible, I feel like, but really freaking cool. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you would do
Get
that.
like it's like the Rampage thing. Get like a Mountain Dew sponsorship and like add the replay thing. Yeah, that'd be really good for the game. I feel like a lot of people would learn from that, and I mean, it would also be helpful for the community. It would grow everything because they would add people would obviously share these and it would be and learn from it. So they would be able to increase the average skill level. Like I said, with the labyrinths, players getting better mechanically, that increasing the overall average skill level. This would also increase it. So it would be better, like easier since the community on average would be a lot closer to each other skill wise,
Yeah.
it would maybe make balancing a little bit easier for them in the future if they want to slow the game down or speed it up a little bit. So yeah, a really cool idea.
Mm-hmm. It'd be really hard
Too
to
bad it's
make.
never gonna happen.
It might. We don't know what technology is coming. We don't
I
know.
don't know. After like 6 years of no observer mode and racing and stuff like
Hmm.
that, I mean, do you really think it would happen? Maybe
I
in
have
the
high hopes. I'm optimistic.
PoE too. All right, all right. Maybe that would be a good question to ask one of the devs and see what their response would be.
Yeah. Um, Here's a question by Pinotro, and it's something I actually really think should be in the game. Do you think there should be an item mod for internal cooldown heals, so like reduced cooldown for things like flame dash, mines, traps? Like a gem that is reduced cooldown.
Hmm.
Because I think there should be.
Possibly. I mean, it probably should be in the game. I don't know how strong it needs to be. I feel like GGG took a little bit of a different approach because really cooldowns, they're trying to stay away from cooldowns. That's why they implemented vol skills,
Yeah.
you know? Because cooldowns can really trivialize a game if you disregard the pacing entirely. Like if you just don't care about how fast you go, cooldowns can really break a game. Uh, at which point, if anyone can get to 100 and all that, because they're running like a permanent vol immortal call when they're indestructible and all that sort of stuff, it's problematic. So maybe something like this could potentially break the game, but it being in the game definitely wouldn't hurt it if they would work on it, right? Not just put it into the game. Oh, it's broken. Let's just keep it this way. I would prefer for it to be too weak than too strong.
Mhm.
but it being there wouldn't hurt.
Cool. Yeah, no, I like the idea.
Yeah.
Next question is by LPV Benji, and you sort of brushed on it earlier. Why are your YouTube videos so good and well edited lately?
Oh wow.
Sort of
Well,
an insult too.
yeah, I mean it's Benji. He wouldn't miss out on a little bit of an insult for sure. But yeah, it's exactly that. I mean, I've been planning this for a really freaking long time, and it finally worked out, and everything's coming together really nicely. And I hope that I can continue to work on these things with Hazer, and
Mhm.
everyone's gonna be happy.
That's good.
It's just really really cool. It's all thanks to Hazer. I mean, it's just all the editing work. I've done some of the editing in the past, but I just don't have the time. I don't know. Like to me, Ziggy D is like
A
a
wizard?
freaking crazy robot wizard
Nope.
master guy. Like it's totally impossible. It's just completely impossible. I would have to give up everything to do it,
Mhm.
and I feel like that would make me miserable, thus reducing the potential of the funness in the streaming thing.
No,
So,
it's very hard to
yeah.
combine both streaming and YouTube for sure.
Yeah, it's incredibly hard.
Next question is by Svenskin. Would you like if when you vol a gem, it can also turn white, so you could put it in any socket?
If you vol a gem, it can also turn white.
I think that's pretty
Oh
cool.
man, that's pretty freaking cool, but I mean, there are some things, especially now, that would get pretty crazy with that. I mean, if you look at the Pierce chess piece, right?
Yeah,
It
lion size.
really, yeah. If you can get one less off color in that
You
thing
know,
with something like Spark 7 Link, I mean,
that would be pretty
it gets
crazy.
pretty ridiculous. But I can't really think of any other items that have their strength balanced around off coloring. I think
Hmm.
that's the only one that comes immediately to mind. And yeah, it's definitely a cool idea. I just don't know if it wouldn't get too out of hand. But then again, we do have things like Volning for a level 21 gem, which is a humongous boost
Hmm.
of damage for a lot of builds.
Well,
And that's not considered overpowered, and it is extremely rare. However, you can level like a lot of gems at the same time. I like the idea. I just don't know if it wouldn't get too out of hand. I think I like the idea of having items like Lion Eyes,
hmm,
where the strength of it depends on the off coloring more than
yeah.
having this. But them together would break it.
See, I really like the idea because if you vol it to turn it white, then it could never be 21, right? So you're already giving up some of the scaling there, at least for spells. So that's pretty
Mm-mm.
cool. You basically choose, am I going to put this in something dodgy like a lion's eye, or am I going to get 21?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool.
Also, or like a decision, like if you're gonna just convert it to chaos and clear no matter what, even if it's right?
Always go chaos. Go chaos or go home.
Yes. Titanium white.
Another question by Hippo Rage. Do you think threshold jewels should be implemented into underutilized skills?
Threshold jewels. If they would make them a slightly better, like where you don't have to gimp your character
Hmm.
as much, I think they're really interesting. Because right now, for instance, Fireball works with and without the threshold jewel, which I think is really freaking cool. So that's definitely a good way to for players who are a little bit more familiar with the game, with the theory crafting and all that, to work around certain mechanical problems of a ability rather than GGG just buffing it. But at the same time, if GGG would just buff it, then
Hmm.
immediately the newer player thinks that there is a lot more build diversity and all of those things, right? Not everyone checks out Reddit and all that. They just look at skills and they're like, oh, well, this fireball is garbage because they do have limited knowledge of even links sometimes, right? A lot of
Hmm.
people would look at a caster or like a melee character and they're like, this is so trash. And then they get multi-strike or spell echo and it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. So something like a threshold jewel where somebody doesn't necessarily know about it or doesn't do Reddit and all that stuff, which is a ton of players, it could hurt potentially build diversity and like how much complex the game really gets
Yeah.
in people's heads, right? But yeah, it would be cool. Yeah, I think it's cool in general. Threshold jewels are a cool idea. I wish they would put a little bit more work into them because they really had a nice thing going with that.
Cool. Um, yeah. I don't know. I think threshold jewels need a little buff.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a buff. I mean, the idea is cool. They just need a little bit more work
I
for sure.
like if I was gonna change threshold jewels, I would make like instead of a threshold jewel applying to one gem, I would make one applying to several. So more that the threshold jewel does something, but just instead of specifying it any gem, just it does this if you connect it to X amount of decks, for
Ooh,
example.
yeah, that sounds a little bit crazy to balance. I don't know if that's not
I
too
guess
much.
yeah.
I
See,
mean,
this
it
is
would
why
be
I'm not a
cool,
dev.
but like you have to think about the how much time they actually have to do certain things and what they're focusing on in terms of game development. So something like this would be cool, but every time they would release a new unique item, like too much complexity is also not good for the game balance because that's basically at the stage where we're at now, where there's so many freaking crazy things tied in together that neither the players or GGG can immediately figure out what exactly is like the very best or what you can do with things. Like in the past, it would take players quite a while to understand things like maybe the new EB or trapping certain abilities for them to really do better. Where nowadays with ascendancies and people just getting familiar with all the class stuff and how that ties into all the new unique items, it gets pretty freaking complex.
Yeah.
So, we might just wake up one day and somebody might post some build that's just completely indestructible and clears the entire map in one attack. Like Essence Drain, right? When Essence Drain came out, it would go through walls and shit, and you could literally
Yeah.
clear an entire map with one cast. But that was just an
That was
ability.
fair
But
and
I'm saying
balanced.
like a combination of those things could lead to a situation like that.
What my clear speed?
Yeah, yeah, I know. Clearing a map with one cast is definitely a nice power creep.
um,
Just make every ability do that.
exactly. Especially Spark, just like start, go through the walls.
Yeah,
Good.
that's a solution. No balancing needed. You're
Ink
right.
duration, everything you need on Spark.
Pierce goes through walls. Gee.
New gem, Pierce Walls. Uh, so next question is by Hams. Do you guys think that other duelist ascendancy need any buffs and nerfs? Because we don't hear a lot about Gladiator or I don't even know what the other one's called. That's how bad it
Mm,
is. It's
Juggernaut.
that's it.
No,
Juggernaut.
Slayer.
Oh
Slayer.
really? I don't even know. See, that's the
Wait.
problem. I only know champion. I know
Yeah.
it's Gladiator. That's it.
I mean, I honestly don't play much melee and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
so I at the very beginning I did like a skill tree looking at different ascendancies, and I would pick things that potentially have a like a potential for some combinations with different things. And I don't remember selecting anything with any of those aside from like pure damage increases, but I'd honestly have to look at it again to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Ascendancies are pretty complex, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people the immediate choice is the champion, while the other ones don't, from what I remember, don't seem to offer enough really in terms of mechanical clear speed increases or defensive capabilities.
Oh,
So yeah, maybe it does need some attention, but
yeah.
maybe it's still too early for players to really judge how balanced ascendancies are when just now people are figuring out how strong some Scion setups are, or like the Elementalist is really strong. I feel like the Hierophant is going to get a lot more popular
Yeah.
real soon with all the multipliers and all that, and the faith in something talent with the increased damage per mob killed. It can really get out of hand. The on kill effects are definitely here to stay, and they're pretty strong, and they are a meta that people do enjoy. So yeah, there's still room to figure things out.
Yeah, no, I mean, I especially like seeing it percentage numbers based on class. Like maybe not like each specific ascendancy, but definitely by class. I'm super happy with how like it's so varied. I was shocked, honestly. Like when
Yeah,
Ziggy released that like ascendant, I was like, great, 88% ascendant.
really?
That's
That
what I
wasn't my
thought.
impression at all.
But like that was just my first impression. But then the more I looked into it, especially seeing the stats when like people started playing, I was like, wow, this is so varied.
Yeah, yeah. I
Uh,
mean, even if you just sit down and theory craft, you can look at just about any skill in the game, and I can guarantee you it will have at least two completely on the opposite ascendancy slash classes
mhm.
to choose from,
Yeah.
where it is a viable option. And there, for 90% of the builds out there, there is no one best decision to make. It might tie into your playstyle, what exactly you want to accomplish in the game. Do you want to do labs at Zeri, maps, trading, speedrunning, rushing people, MFing? There's just so many decisions to be made, and based off of that, you have multiple different ascendancies to choose out of. I feel like ascendancy really, I don't. It's like the best thing they've ever implemented into the
Yeah.
game, and I'm so baffled by how complex it is and how smart it really is. Because if you looked at it at the beginning, like immediately you would get struck with these themes, and you would think that it limits class selection, but it really does not at all. It's really cool.
So when I invited you to this, I said it would be around 2 hours. We're currently at 2 hours. Now, I don't know
Mm.
how busy you are with the rest of today. I'm giving you an out here, basically. Do you want to continue, or how busy are you?
I'm cool. I can continue for a little bit more.
Sweet. Gonna scroll down and
Yeah.
find some more questions. Let's give some Rise hearts in chat, guys, for being a
Excuse
cool
me.
guy and joining us here on the AMA. Let's give a lot of hearts for Rise.
You know, now that Hazer's doing all the work, I just have so much free time. It's whatever. I do have to go for a run with my mom in a little bit, but that's around 9, so it's cool.
So I think this was about one of the animes you were watching. How do you feel about Hunter x Hunter ending?
The ending?
No, it's ending. The show is ending.
No, it's not ending. They announced that they're gonna work more on the manga
All
and
right.
then the anime will continue. It's just one of those where it just takes forever, you know. What can you do? Madhouse and like the guy who's making the manga is just it's a bad setup. But it's supposedly gonna continue.
Okay, cool. Well, it was just an anime thing, so I didn't actually know anything about it, but I figured there's a lot of other people that watch anime.
Hunter x Hunter has like, you know, everyone's always laughing. It's like a pretty big meme.
Cool.
So
Um, Next question is actually
hiatus, ex hiatus. Yeah, sorry.
that's all right. Next question is from Meadow Bloom. What about customizable buff bars, especially with group play where you have a screen-wide buff bar and you can't see any important buffs and debuffs? And
Oh man, yeah, yeah. Sorry.
and
Continue.
on that question as well, what about a more customizable UI in general?
Oh yeah. Well, I was about to say I
Yeah.
got so excited about that. Yeah. Come on. Like entirely customizable UI not only makes the game a lot more interesting to see and like you can get add-ons and stuff like that. And I know it can't get out of hand with mods and add-ons and all that stuff. But just being able to move shit around. I mean, the fact that we've got buffs and debuffs that s- are on the same bar that is not anywhere near your health bar, and on the same time they switch out between each other
Yeah.
so you can't see which one is
I
what
hate that.
immediately, and you can die in like a split second. It's insane.
Mhm.
They should definitely make it a lot more customizable. If anything, the buffs bar you can like scroll down, or like there's so many things they could potentially do. That's why I keep saying some of the things that are in Path of Exile is so incredibly cryptic. It just makes it feel like a 1995 game. This is one of the things. Definitely a
Yeah.
customizable AI would be really cool. I mean, I personally love the mini map. I have it disabled. I have it disabled because it's on the opposite side
Yeah.
of my freaking health bar. And it's just impossible to look at because you're constantly looking like this, and after 5 minutes of that, you want to throw up. It's impossible to do. It's
Yeah.
impossible.
And something else I also think would be really cool would be a customizable loot filter. Or
Customizable loot
MTX
filter?
sounds. MTX sounds for loot filter. So you could either buy more sound packs or something. If they don't want to give it custom.
Actually, did they ever say anything about that? Why they wouldn't do that?
I think they didn't want people having like one specific sound for every single item. Like Corsair sword.
Oh, that's actually a really interesting point. Yeah, you know what? I would go with GGG on this one, honestly. I do
Slink
prefer.
gloves. Slink boots.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really something that might push like the clear speed meta and everything. Yeah, that's a really good point from them. Yeah, I think I'm with GGG on this
I
one.
do think they could do a hybrid though, where they give us like three customizable sounds or something. Like, there's a few
Yeah.
other sounds that I can't stand in the loot filter at the moment. There's like one of those that are like whoop, 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 and you're like,
Then you can do like don't pick up,
yeah,
almost pick up every time.
yeah. Well, that's like you can basically do that with sounds already anyway. I
Yeah,
love
yeah, I
the
mean
loot
you can.
filter though.
Yeah, yeah. You can kind of do that. Nine sounds definitely customizable enough to do that, as long as you can recognize them, of course.
So
Yeah, yeah. A little bit would be good.
yeah.
Good point. Good point.
Next question is by Havoc616.
Ugh.
What is what is Rice's opinion on fisting? Oh, bro, fisting.
Okay, sis. All right. Bro fisting. Aren't those the same things? Fisting and bro fisting?
I thought so.
You thought so? Oh my God, I
I've
feel
been doing
sorry
it
for your
wrong.
subscribers.
Well, hook 'em while they're young.
Is this with them gloves all day and night? Never too many fisting gloves. Oh boy. Yeah, I really love that stuff, man. All about it. Now that I know that it's bro fisting everyone, I'm definitely gonna subscribe too.
See?
Oh boy.
Oh, I just got
It works
16
on me.
subscribers. Oh my god.
Nice, man. Yeah. It's great. It's great. More of that.
More of that. Okay, there you have it, Havoc. More of that. Okay, more fisting. Takida95 is asking, what do you think is better, Voltaxic Spark or Voltaxic Spark Totems?
What's more meta?
What's
Wait,
better?
what's better? Voltaxic Spark or Voltaxic Spark Totems? Definitely Voltaxic Spark Totems, in my opinion.
I completely agree. Just Voltaxic Spark is definitely better. Um,
Right, okay. Sure. I'll
right,
meet you on the ladder.
oh. No, totems are definitely strong. I just don't feel the need for it.
What do you mean? It's like having two people instead of one. You can even have like four people instead of one.
Totems though?
Uh, and it automatically targets everything too. And it off screen's better.
Mm, I don't like totems.
Oh, okay. That's why you're playing a totem build right now, is that?
That's because it
Uh,
scales very nicely. Leave me alone. I don't have to be
yeah, you know what?
consistent.
Now that I think about it, your explanation does add up. Yeah, you're making you're making sense.
See? Next question is by Matt Hatter UI. Do you think there should be a third league, a more elite league for the veterans to have more of a challenge?
Another league for the veterans to have more of a challenge? There should be a more challenging version of the game, I think. Something like races like Blamped, although not nearly as extreme.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like something like that would be good for the game, for that just to be there. However, maybe the community is not big enough to split it up between
Yeah,
three leagues if they already, you know, did the changes with the hardcore and softcore and like two different leagues and all that, and now it's like Parandis is both hardcore and softcore instead of what we had before.
yeah,
Um, but for veteran players, I don't like the idea because I feel like they're really nowhere near a big enough group to even be
yeah,
taken into account. But like an Iron Man version of or whatever of the game, permanently available to people whenever they do want to challenge themselves, and then immediately after that they go to a different league where they can play normal again. Would be cool. More
yeah.
options, yeah, for
Frame
sure.
league, just don't get hit.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm a big fan, especially like with the current size of the community, because I also think it would promote a lot of like elitism and stuff.
hmm Yeah, I feel like the community is getting better with that though. With like the whole softcore and hardcore. Oh, excuse me, scrubcore and hardcore. Uh,
See?
that whole thing, right?
Yeah,
I feel like the community is getting a little bit better with that. So maybe not necessarily, but yeah, we definitely need more players playing so that every league is well represented, so that there's not too many issues with that.
Yeah, especially Perm League Hardcore is very well represented right now. Said no one. Um, right. Next question is a very good question. I think we're all dying to hear the answer of this. Out of these two terrible skills, which is worse, LA Hit Claw Templar or Arc Totems?
um, uh, like a Claw Templar. No memes here.
No memes there. Ah, that's well done.
I'll
That
prove
is
you
my
all
axes.
wrong.
Well done. Well done, sir.
Everyone's gonna play. Everyone's gonna play that next league. You guys will see.
Arc
Arc
Totems.
totems are the best.
He's ahead of
Yeah.
his time, guys.
Right.
Oh, okay. What is your dankest meme by Havoc616?
Oh my God. I don't have any dank memes, man.
Vape Nation?
No. I guess the chicken stuff is quite the dank meme. Or maybe the why you lying. I don't know, man. I'm not much of a meme person. I leave that stuff to professionals like Havoc and Crame. I get all my memes from them. So, yeah. God. Somebody banned that guy already in
No,
chat.
that was great. An out of
Keeps
10.
posting weird questions.
Arc Totems.
That
Okay.
one was good.
Another one by Benji. Would you rather spend a night with Ziz, Cha, or Weasel?
Oh, easy. Easy. Weasel. Duh.
Ooh. I'm
Weasel would
fucking
be.
hurt.
You're way too nice.
Wow.
Cha is like, we'd have to listen to like classy music and he'd like shower me in rose petals and stuff. I'm not into that. With Weasel, it would be like a straightforward, it would be good. I feel like it would be as freaky as it gets. No doubt. The word God, the words hate fuck come to mind.
Wow.
We all know those are the best, right, boys? So yeah, Weasel, no doubt.
I'm not sleeping tonight.
Yeah, I mean you're too nice, sis. Let's be honest. Like, yeah.
Look, I don't even have any comfort food.
You don't. Excuse
I
me?
don't even have any comfort food now.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you, man. Nice guys finish last. Sorry.
Wow. Um, right, so pro tip to me, I need to slap Rise about more. Next
Yes.
question is by Honey Badger. How badly do you think that GGD need to bring back Build of the Week videos? Should they make it completely community voted? And would it be better if they did two videos, one for hardcore and one for softcore?
Ooh, two videos is really cool. More content on YouTube from GGG especially is really good. I feel like they really should start addressing again, or not addressing, but like start showing again to everyone, not just to PoE players, how cool of a company they are. So putting out more content, like social media and all that sort of stuff, would be definitely very nice. And I also like the idea itself because it would get a lot less confusing for people because the build of the week would get a lot of hate in the past. Like,
Yeah.
well, this build has 3,000 life, or this build has 6,000 life. Like you can never please everyone. But yeah, the same reason that I mentioned before is the reason why they should bring it back, in my opinion, because we just need more content from them.
Hmm.
Uh, Players need to start feeling again like GGG cares, and they're more in touch with the community, even if the build of the week in the past they get a little bit of hate. They really shouldn't get to them, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think a lot of the builds are really like creative and really shows off what you can do with like how like varied the game is.
Yeah, 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 for sure. For sure. I mean, why like there's all this potential for all these different builds and everything, and really people don't watch enough streamers to see how much it really affects them. However, the PoE has like the biggest outlet. They can advertise everything they do as much as possible, and through build of the week they can really advertise what the build diversity looks like and captivate a much bigger audience. So give me more of that, you know.
Yeah. No, I agree. Um, next, actually, there. I was thinking of wrapping up in around 5 or 10 minutes, so I'm going to do a few more questions, and then we'll be
Mhm.
wrapping up. Next question is by Sneaky Jones. Will you be making some more YouTube videos about racing tips for new players, for new racers?
Yeah, with the YouTube stuff expanding a lot now, and again with Hazer being just the best ever, and he's actually willing to not only edit the highlights but also build guides and races probably in the future. There's definitely going to be so much more of everything like that. So yeah, stay tuned. Because in the
Mm-hmm.
past, really, the problem was to format them so that they're captivating to an audience because it's very hard to race and commentate at the same time. And even when I did the 2 hour thing, it was so draining. It was like impossible. But with somebody highlighting the best moments, we can make it into a series where I don't necessarily constantly repeat myself. It just captures the best moments or the big break points, and it feels, even a 1 hour race edited down, I feel can really teach players a lot about different experiences that you have to gain through your own experience through
Mm-hmm.
just doing it. You can gain through somebody else, it being me, you know, all the RNG swings and all that stuff. So yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. Much, much, much more. In general, the YouTube's gonna blow up in terms of content.
I actually really like this question by Pony Bubbler. Do you feel like there should be a goal to achieve on an account-wide scale so we can build up something over the leagues other than just a trophy stash in regular hardcore?
Wait, can you repeat that again? Sorry.
Do you feel like there should be goals to achieve it on a count-wide scale so that we can build something up over the leagues other than just a trophy stash on regular hardcore? Like right now, after a
Okay.
league,
Yeah.
it just goes to hardcore. You're done with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I get it. I wasn't sure if that was
Hmm.
exactly what the question was, but yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, the whole everything goes to hardcore and you never see it again thing is it's atrocious after such a long time of that, and how after so many players having so many good recommendations for how to fix it with permanent items or just MTXable rewards for items. I don't know why they didn't implement it yet, but I
Hmm.
feel like it might be coming sometime soon with them looking a little bit more into racing as they promised uh, last season that they will do that. Maybe it's actually going to happen, and maybe that's going to be a big breakthrough for everything else in terms of just not losing your items to hardcore, softcore, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be very good though. I feel like it would be great for the game.
Cool. Is there any questions you've seen? Have you been reading the chat at all? No.
I hate reading
No,
through
that's
chat.
fine. I was just wondering if there was any question you were dying to answer or something.
Dying
Um,
to answer. Yeah,
well, you never
yeah.
know with well, you're a bit. Yep. I love you, buddy. First, I'd like to thank you so much for coming on this AMA. It's been an absolute pleasure. Chat as well. Say thanks to Rise for coming on. This has been absolutely amazing. And can you tell the chat like where can they find you, what and stuff like that?
Sure,
Plug
you can
yourself a
find
little
me.
bit.
Sure, you can find me on Twitch TV RaizQT, except it's spelled like Raise, but it's actually Rise. And well, it's not, but you know what I'm saying. And then same thing for the YouTube stuff. Like I said before, a lot of changes with the YouTube. I'm streaming a whole bunch. With the race season coming up, I'm even gonna stream a lot more. So feel free to tune in. Kappa Pride, boys.
Cool. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you had an amazing time. It was yeah, pretty
I mean, it
cool.
was okay. It
It was
wasn't
okay.
necessarily
It
amazing, but it
wasn't as
was
good as it would have
okay.
been with the Weasel. I see. I
Yeah,
see.
exactly. I was
Um,
about to say that.
I'm gonna turn off your camera now and then ditch you on Skype to make sure no one sees all your super secret Skype details.
Perfect.
So
Thank you very much.
thank you so much for coming, dude.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invite and for all the fun. I'll see you around.
See you, buddy.
Bye,
Thank you.
guys. See ya.